Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у щах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страны.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Ті, хто води всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The lead Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1145 of the War News stream. And of course, it is the Sunday night fundraiser stream where we're helping to revive soldiers of Ukraine. They're out here getting them stim packs. But we have big news tonight. And the Russian economy has entered a free fall amidst crashing oil prices as of today. The China-U.S. trade war talks are stalling amidst escalation by both sides, and the U.S. is preparing attack contingency plans for Iran. And it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world, as we've been able to get significant news today that it appears that the Russian Federation is forecasted to take a 1 trillion ruble loss over the next period of this year due to the sharply declining prices of oil globally. We are understanding at this point that the Russian Federation is already on the cusp of absolute economic despair, and it appears that this is going to send them on over the edge and into a financial collapse, most likely by the early part of next year or the latter end of 2026. We have also been able to hear that the negotiations in between the United States and the People's Republic of China have begun to stall, as it does appear that neither side is able to come up to a decent conclusion. The Chinese are demanding that there needs to be an all stop on the tariffs against them, while at the same time they've suspended the trade of rare earths to the United States effective immediately today. We have also been able to hear no developments whatsoever in between the supposed US-Iran delegation that was supposed to be meeting in the capital of Oman today. That we just don't even have any updates on that, so we don't know what happened as far as that was concerned. We also were able to hear, however, that the Germans will be providing Taurus missiles to Ukraine here in the near future, and we've also been able to hear that a petition has been able to get 10 million votes inside of the Republic of Turkey, or really 10 million signatures, to be able to start a snap presidential election against Erdogan. We have also been able to hear that apparently inside of the state of Ukraine, there has been a significant counteroffensive today within the city of Toretsk and near to Pokrovsk, pushing the Russians further back from both key cities and ensuring that the Russian Federation will not be able to continue their march further on westwards into the Donetsk Oblast. And we have also been able to hear that Ukrainian forces have been able to hold the lines elsewhere. We have also heard up in the Kursk area of a decent amount of heavy military activity today as the Ukrainians continue to defend the small amount of ground that they still hold inside of the Kursk Oblast. And we also heard about an unfortunate attack in Sumy today that was conducted by the Russian Federation that has been stated by many, pretty much everyone in the world, except for the Russians, to be an act of terror. We have a load of news to be covering over just the past 24 hours alone, and we are happy to have all of y'all here. And if y'all have not seen yet, and it is a big thing of the night, every single night that Sunday night comes around, we are running the Sunday Night Fundraiser, which is for Revive Soldiers of Ukraine, an amazing nonprofit that helps Ukrainian soldiers that have been nearly mortally wounded in combat to hopefully recover from their wounds or heal from their wounds somewhat successfully and return back to their normal lives after nearly giving everything, including their lives, to the defense of the state of Ukraine and the Western world at large. So if you would like to support, please do. It's a great fundraiser, and I've already thrown in $100 of my own money to support this fundraiser tonight. So if you would like to match me, $100 is what you need to match. But if you would like to support,
we're already over $830 raised, which is fantastic already this early, just minutes into the stream. So absolutely insane.
An absolutely insane night already, and hopefully we'll be able to see that we hit that fundraiser goal here incredibly soon. Moving on from that, though, and into the major news that we were able to hear tonight, that brings us on into Moscow and into the Russian Federation, as it is always a prime fun time in the Russian Federation. They get to live in amazing cities that are considered first world by many, including those such as American patriots like Tucker Carlson. You can live in a beautiful city like the city of Shichevok right here. You can live right in the middle of this monument to the tens of millions of Soviets that died in the middle of World War II. And you can also live in that slalom right over there, right next to this little garden right here in the middle of town. They don't even allow Google Street View into this one. It must be that rough. But nevertheless, we were able to hear some significant news from this area that it does appear that massive financial woes are coming for the Russians. And that is something that I have to actually say is a little bit shocking, because massive financial woes have already been here for the Russians for about 2 years now. The Russians have been suffering significant financial losses at the hand of Ukrainian attacks and also crippling sanctions laid out by the United States of America for about 2 years, at least significantly at this point. We are now hearing that there is now another thing that is adding on to the Russians' financial woes, which are the oil prices around the world. And we've been able to see that they've taken a little bit of a drop. They went from about $70 a barrel to now they're down to a nice whopping $59 to $60 a barrel as trading closed today. It is quite a shame, quite a significant shame, that the Russian Federation is not able to bring in the kind of money that they once were on that shadow fleet oil that was being transported around the world. And according to information today tabulated by the Financial Times, Russia may lose more than 1 trillion rubles in government revenue this year due to those plummeting oil prices. That number is roughly 2.5% of the Russian state budget, and it comes as Russian oil trades over $20 a barrel less than Russian budget planners forecasted. This is a significant issue, because if you've ever seen anything about how the Russian export economy works, which means that we'll have to pull up a Russian export tree map, and let me go pull that up really quickly to show you all this. This is something that is a little bit important to explore here, folks, because this is what the Russian export economy, or more so the tree map, looked like in 2019. And those things in brown are all of the things that have to do with some sort of liquefied natural gas, coal, or oil. So pretty much about 70 to 60% of their exports economically consist of oil products, really crude oil products. You can see this right here. 36% is petroleum oils from bituminous minerals, and crude oil. 16% is oils, petroleum, bituminous distillates, except crude. And you can also see that 12% is natural gas liquefied, or liquefied natural gas, as we would call it normally. And then 2.6% of their economy is made up of anthracite coal that is not agglomerated. But beyond that, it is a little bit important to note here that this is the bulk of their economy. As far as how Russia makes their money as a nation, most of it comes through their oil industry. And the fact that the price of oil has just dropped, I mean, it's quite truly plummeted, $10 per barrel of oil, this is a significant loss that the Russian government's going to be facing in their annual revenues that they are able to expend on the war in Ukraine, meaning that they will have to be lending a lot more, which they really cannot already lend. Lending is an incredibly tough situation for them, considering that they've been removed from the SWIFT banking system, and not only that, they also do not really have a large amount of banks or nations that are openly conducting any financial business with them. This means that they're going to be spending money that they really don't have at a far faster pace because they don't have even a base amount of money for government revenue coming in from oil sales that would be able to at least slow the bleeding of the Russians' financial assets. They're now going to be hemorrhaging them over the remainder of this year, because they're not going to have $1 trillion extra rubles worth of income coming in from the oil sales that the Russian Federation would typically conduct. This is something that is letting us know that Russia is on a path for financial ruin. We've already known that the Russians were on a path for financial ruin. That's been quite clear for years now, but at this point, it is now becoming an accelerated turbo version of financial ruin, the likes of which we didn't really expect. We actually did not expect this to be coming around with the dropping prices of oil, among many other things, but it does appear that experts are saying that Russia is running out of money to fund the Ukraine war due to these crashing oil prices. And a lot of people have been putting in their thoughts, and it seems as though a load of people are believing that the Russians will have a money issue now, a serious money issue. They will be absolutely dying to get their hands on some cash. Others are saying that the Russians will get money elsewhere, although that's a smaller group of people who are saying that. Some others are saying that it depends on their allies, and some are unsure and undecided. But Matthew, what are you thinking about this, and what is everyone else thinking about it? Do you think that the Russians will be able to find more money somewhere, or do you think that this is going to become an incredibly difficult quagmire, giggity, for the Russians to be able to handle?
So about 62% said yes, Russia will have a money issue now, while 19% said no, Russia will get money from elsewhere, and 13% said it really depends on their allies. And I guess you could say that maybe they're hoping that maybe a foreign country like China might come in and try to prop up the Russian economy. That is an option, but I would say that is not very clear right now. So Russia has all their eggs in one basket, mainly because the sanctions have put them in an economic corner where they have to rely on their Russian shadow fleet to export oil. And of course, with the oil price dropping, that basically crushes the one egg in the basket right now. So they're already having a money issue. That's pretty obvious. But now with this compounding issue of the oil prices crashing, that is going to be a serious issue because now they're going to have a major deficit this year compared to last year. So with the war going on for so long now, it has not ended in 3 days like the Russians said, and it's going on for well over 3 years. So I would say, generally speaking, they're going to definitely have a money issue. Probably they're going to start running out of funds really quickly. I'm not sure if their cash reserves are public. That's probably not public information, I would assume, but I don't know how much money they have stored away. But if it's not very much, then they could only last maybe a couple more months at this current oil price at the current rate. So I'm with the 62%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I'm with the 63%. The Russian Federation has already been having a significant money issue for the past year and a half at a minimum, and it appears that this money issue is going to become a significant emergency for them here very soon. The Russians' only lifeline to keep the economy afloat is their oil industry. It was like that pre-war, it's like that during the war, and it will be like that post-war. The Russian Federation has been structured like that during the Soviet period, and it's still structured like that to this day because they don't have enough funds to really diversify their economy in any kind of a meaningful way. So with that in mind, the Russian Federation is going to be stuck in this kind of a situation forever. But right now, because of this situation that they're stuck in, where they're entirely reliant on oil sales to make their money, this means that the Russian Federation, now dealing with those significantly dropping prices in oil, are going to not be able to financially support the war in Ukraine as difficult as they already were, which it was quite difficult. As Just Chillin' throws in a $200 donation, bringing up the fundraiser total to $1,600 nearly. We're only $12 off from $1,600. That's absolutely wild. And it does appear, speaking of which, on this whole situation with the Russian Federation, that they will not be able to finance the war. I wish there was a good way to explain it, so I'll try my best here in the most simplest of terms because I don't really think I'm explaining it too well. So you have $100, but you're making $50 a week, and you have to spend about $30 every week. So you have $100 to start with. You spend about 30 of that, so you have 70 left, but then you make 50 every week. So then you end up every single week with a little bit of extra money. So you have about $120, even though you spend 30. Now they're not making that additional 50 every week for the large part. They're making about 20, and they're still spending $30 a week on this war, meaning that although they're making money still, it's not enough money, and it's far less money for them to actually be able to keep this war going. So I hope that's a much better way of explaining that makes a lot more sense, because that's pretty much what's going to be happening at this point, and it does appear the Russian Federation is going to be dealing with some significant issues, especially financial ones, as time continues to pass on by. But moving on from that...
Also, by the way, before we get off that topic, there's only three things Russia can really do when I really thought about it, is they can either find a new way to source money, which they could go to a foreign country like China to try to get some money in the form of loans to try to keep their economy afloat. Or number two, they can have some cash reserves that they're pulling on. Maybe Putin has stored away some cash in the Russian Federation, and he can pull on that to try to keep the war going. Or the third option, which Russia has started doing quite frequently now, is they can start basically confiscating the goods of the civilians like they've been doing, nationalizing companies, and basically stealing the money they need to keep the war going from the civilians. That could actually be the most likely option, because they've already started doing that in the last couple of weeks really heavily, and they could ramp that up drastically if the oil price keeps dropping, because they have to find the money somewhere, and that could be where they find it the easiest.
That could be. We'll have to wait and see how that actually turns out. But that is a very interesting suggestion, Matthew, and I think we'll have to have a group study put out on that to figure out what's really going to be going on in that kind of a metric. But nevertheless, we're going to be moving on from the Russian Federation's news, and we're now going to be moving on over into the news in between the United States of America and the People's Republic of China, as a significant trade war between the two is continuing on to this day. Many know that at this point, the amount of tariffs that have been imposed by the United States of America on China and the amount of tariffs imposed by China on the United States have practically made trade in between the two entirely unprofitable and non-competitive, to the point that the trade's nearly completely halted. We are also understanding at this point that the two are trying to get involved in some sort of negotiations to break this trade deadlock and rebegin the trade. The thing is, though, this is an interesting thing, is that yesterday we actually heard that the sanctions were lifted on pretty much all Chinese electronics items. And if you've ever looked at the main exports of the Chinese economy, most of them are electronics. It's around 40%, meaning that the bulk of the actual sanctions have just disappeared overnight, and we only have sanctions remaining on some other critical things. But once again, it's still a 150% sanction on those kinds of items. Nevertheless, the People's Republic of China has stated today in these negotiations that there should be a complete lift on tariffs, or there should be a full stop on them, as China has called on the United States to completely cancel the tariffs, while at the exact same time, rare earths trades with the United States have officially stopped today, as China formally stopped exporting key rare earth minerals to the United States earlier this morning. It does appear that at this point, the trade war is still ongoing, possibly with no end in sight, as it doesn't really appear that either side is going to be reaching any kind of common ground. The United States of America wants to return manufacturing back to its own borders, largely meaning that this sort of an aggressive stance against the People's Republic of China will not cease, even if it ends up becoming destructive to the United States of America in the long run and the short run. The People's Republic of China does not want to relent, because they believe that they should be able to continue to have some sort of significant economic control over the United States of America's consumer sector, and not only that, they should also continue to have some sort of economic stimulus coming through the United States, which is the largest economy on earth, because the Chinese economy has been stagnating over the past few years, and while industrial manufacturing is no longer the strong suit of China, or at least a major focus of their government, that is one of the main revenue sources that has been even keeping the Chinese economy stagnated over these past few years, and losing that sort of income base could be devastating for the Chinese economy and also greater Chinese foreign policy planning over the next few years. So for both ends, it appears that an unstoppable force is meeting an immovable object, and I don't really see right now where this is going to be settled by either side here within the near future. It does appear that this trade war may go on indefinitely, which may also destabilize the Pacific due to the rising tensions between the two. Trade wars usually do boil over into some sort of conventional war if they get hostile enough. We could actually see larger conflicts break out in the Pacific between the Chinese and the United States as a result of this major trade war. There are some fairly decent arguments, though, to be said by the United States of America in this trade war, because once again, we are pro-Western and pro-American, and while Chinese trade, or at least the tariffs that we have on them right now, is causing damage to the U.S. economy, I do have to say that I'm not against the idea of tariffing China and trying to move industrial manufacturing bases away from them. It's just that I disagree with the end goal. They can't return to America, at least right now. They have to go somewhere else. So, and not China, but somewhere else. So the tariffs are not an incredibly bad, well, they're bad at least in the short term for the economy, but they're not an incredibly bad thing, at least in the terms of the premise, or at least the principle behind them. The People's Republic of China is an openly hostile country to the United States of America. They are our largest international rival right now currently in the world, and they are currently still attempting to conduct an aggressive expansionist campaign to threaten the U.S. control of the Western Pacific, and also to threaten U.S. control of the Middle East and other major trade corridors, such as the European Union. For this reason, we do have to view the People's Republic of China as a hostile force, and we do have to make sure that we are completely detached from them in every single way. And beyond that detachment, we also need to be ensuring that whatever actions we are conducting, we are continuing to put them at a severe disadvantage. Given that nature, however, we have to be able to do this carefully, because doing this in a reckless way could cause damage to us as much as it would cause damage to them. As James Hughes throws in a $140 donation to the fundraiser, bringing us up to $1,900. Holy moly. That is getting
Some say this is the greatest fundraiser. I've never seen such a strong fundraiser as this one. It's doing fantastic. Some say the best. It's doing great.
Some people have been saying that it's an absolutely great fundraiser. I've got to say that it's an incredible fundraiser thanks to James Hughes. Absolutely incredible guy. People said, James, you don't have to do it. You don't have to throw in any support. And he said, that super chat just got $10 taller, and we got another $10 or $100, $140. People have never seen it before. People went, wow, that's a lot of support. Right into our fundraiser. I called it a super chat earlier, but it is a fundraiser. And he threw in a donation, a great donation, a massive donation. People have been saying donation a lot. It's a word that's been going around a great deal, and there's going to be a lot of donations going around, but I can promise you that one donation that's not going to be going around is going to be going to China. We are putting a 150% tariff on China. They are not going to be getting any donations from us. They're not going to be getting any of our TVs, not that they bought any, but they're not going to be getting anything else from us. They're not going to be getting cars. They're not going to be getting Teslas. Everybody loves a Tesla, right? The Chinese have been fiending for a Tesla. They're not going to be getting any of those. They're not going to be getting... What else do they buy from us, Matthew? I don't know what they buy from us. I know what we buy from them. I don't know what they buy from us.
They buy a little bit of everything. They buy a little bit of everything, but much smaller quantities than what we buy from them.
I gotta tell you, they're gonna be suffering. They're gonna be hurting, because you know what? We might not be giving them any donations, but we're not gonna be giving them donations in terms of our money. They're not gonna be getting any of our money. But they've imported televisions to us, lots and lots of televisions. You all like televisions, don't you? No more televisions. The televisions are gone. They're not gonna be around anymore. We're not gonna have any of those stupid Chinese televisions broadcasting Xi Jinping all over TV. We're not gonna be having TikTok. We could say that more so the clock is tick-tacking on the Chinese. The economy is falling apart. It's a terrible thing for them. But beyond that, it does appear that the People's Republic of China may be in a difficult situation because of this, and to be entirely honest with you all, in this trade war, at least right now, while it will damage both sides, it actually does stand to damage the People's Republic of China more so than the United States right now, because the Chinese economy is more so geared towards foreign export manufacturing, which is where they build up a large amount of their wealth. The United States of America is more focused on importations of foreign goods, which means that at least in the short time, or even in the long term, we could see that a lot of companies make the decision to change their offshoring from being based inside of China and being based in other countries that are equally economically competitive, if not more economically competitive than the People's Republic of China, and there are several options. One of the largest and most prominently growing options at this point is the Republic of India. We've actually seen that a lot of offshoring has started to move from China into India because now it's actually more economically competitive than being based in China, funnily enough. We've also seen that a large amount of that manufacturing is also moving into Mexico as well, which I'll be honest with you all, out of all of our options for possible offshoring in the future, it actually turns out that offshoring into Mexico probably would be our best alternative, tariff because the I think it's the Federal Republic of Mexico or something like that. I think that's their official name. Is actually fairly friendly to the United States. It's already a major trading partner, and not only that, it's directly inside of the North American continent, which makes it a lot easier to ensure that our supply lines with the Mexicans would never really be impeded all too much, at least as far as the final end product shipments into the United States would be concerned. We wouldn't really have to worry about it too much because the journey would be incredibly short. But nevertheless, it does appear, at least at this point, that this trade war is going to be going on quite well, at least for now, and we may be seeing, as time continues to pass on, that this could escalate into something a little bit larger. But nevertheless, China has suspended the exports of rare earth metals crucial to U.S. industries as of today, and a lot of people are wondering, will this cause a U.S. reversal on the tariffs? And it appears that many are actually saying that the U.S. will retaliate again and just double on down with what we've been doing in the past. Others are saying that they may do status quo for now, and some are saying that the U.S. will back off for now and just rescind most of the tariffs, much like we did on everyone else in the world, where we gave a 90-day pause. A lot of people are having different ideas on this, though. But Matthew, what are people thinking about it, and what are you thinking about it as well?
So it looks like 46% said no, the U.S. will retaliate again in response to that, while 27% said yes, the U.S. will back off now, and 16% said, they may do some status quo for now to keep it sort of stable. And honestly, considering the fact that China has actually suspended all the rare earth metals going to the United States, I would say that is going to weigh heavily into the U.S. possibly reversing course, or at least making it seem like they're going to basically reverse course in a sort of saving face kind of way. So I would say that it's possible retaliation can happen, but more likely than not, they'll keep it status quo for now to try to talk this out, because if they keep escalating it, it's going to keep getting more out of hand. And China does have some leverage over us, like, for example, with the rare earth metals that they could use to try to harm our country. So I think they're going to keep it status quo. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, in my opinion, I believe that right now it's most likely going to be maintained at status quo as negotiations continue. Once negotiations fall apart, much like they are already starting to do, we'll probably see that they will ramp it up a little bit further, but eventually something will give, either by the Chinese or by the United States of America. And I have a feeling that in the end, the United States of America is most likely going to give, because the United States of America does count a good bit on maintaining a decent quality of life or a standard of living in the United States off of cheap consumer goods, and a large amount of those still come from the People's Republic of China. China would be more than happy to continue that trade because, once again, they build up a decent amount of money off of it. So even if they really did not like the United States after this whole trade war, they're still going to supply the United States with goods because money talks and morals really don't, at least in this particular instance as far as the commies are concerned. So they will continue to ship goods into America. But with that, I hope that does address it well, at least in my opinion of what's going to be happening or what's going to be going on here in the near future. But it's still an incredibly interesting thing, nevertheless. But moving on from that little trade relationship side of things with the People's Republic of China and the ongoing trade war that we've been seeing right now, we have been seeing some other major news going on as well throughout the remainder of the world. And moving us on over towards Ukraine and the major news that we have there tonight, we have been able to hear inside of the Republic of Turkey some fairly interesting developments that have been going on today. Call it a turkey because they're getting that gravy, because the civil unrest has still continued on weeks after we last covered it, and we're now hearing that the opposition has gathered 10 million signatures for early presidential elections inside of Turkey. And really quickly, to get you an idea of the size of this number of people, the population of Turkey is 85 million people. So this is actually a significant number. This is about 13 to 14% of the population signing off on a petition to have a snap election for the president of Turkey. And it does appear that Erdogan may have overstepped himself by arresting his lead rival politically inside of the country. We were able to see today that the political opposition were openly speaking about the petition today inside of Istanbul here at a rally. And it does appear that they're trying to muster up their supporters in the public to be able to try and push for an early presidential election and attempt an ousting of Erdogan here within the very near future. And we can see here that they're, having a little rally.
That's a pretty big rally, honestly. They look like they're pretty rallied up.
Man, they look rallied. I would say that for sure. Also, folks, please no politics in the chat. Oh, goodness. I know that I did a voice, and some people think that that's supposed to be like a political thing. It's not. It was just supposed to be a joke. That wasn't supposed to be everyone's blank check to say, they hate us or they like us or something like that, or they hate the guy or they like the guy. It was just a joke. People got to learn how to have a humor these days. I'm telling you, it's getting a little bit tiresome. You can't say anything without people taking it way too seriously. But moving on from that and on into Berlin, we did get to hear that the new successor to Schultz inside of Germany, his name is Merz. I actually don't know his first name, but that is his last name for sure. Did say that he is going to be willing to send Taurus missiles to Ukraine. Taurus missiles are pretty much analogous in their abilities and performance to that of the Storm Shadow and Scalp EG missiles from France and the United Kingdom that have already been provided in the past to the state of Ukraine and have been used to great effect to attack Russian naval yards inside of Sevastopol and also to attack other targets actually inside of the Russian Federation's borders, such as a major command post near to the area of the city of Lgov, which was called a sanatorium at the time, and it appears that the Russians went stir crazy after they got buried in the rubble under the sanatorium when it got hit by several missiles. It does appear that the United States of America well, not really the United States of America. Sorry, everyone. I'm a little tired tonight trying to get through this. The Federal Republic of Germany is continuing to start ramping up its military support now that Schultz is departing as the Chancellor of Germany, and it appears that the new Chancellor will be providing a great deal more support to the state of Ukraine than we've seen in the past. We are also assuming that the United States of America will eventually start to support the state of Ukraine a lot further, at least at this point, because we are understanding that the talks with the Russian Federation have practically at this point all but fallen apart, and there really is no option for the United States but to continue their support for the state of Ukraine well into the indefinite future until the war can be won by the United States and achieved on the West's terms and not the Russians. But we've also been able to hear a little bit of news apparently, about U.S. officials meeting with Israel to discuss Iran contingency war plans in case talks fail. And a lot of people have been putting in their thoughts. And also, while y'all are putting in your thoughts, I want to remind y'all that the talks happened today, and apparently something went so badly, there's actually been no mention of what actually happened at those talks in Oman today in between the United States and Iran. Like, no publications or official statements about anything. Haven't you noticed that, Matthew? Because I remember that they said the talks were actually going to start today, and we haven't even heard whether they went good or bad at all. There's been no comment on them whatsoever.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating, isn't it? Because I've been also hearing from viewers in the live chat that apparently watch the Iranian Telegram channels, and there's been no discussion at all on the Telegram channels of what exactly has been said today. So I'm really not sure if that indicates it's going bad or good, actually, because honestly, it would seem like if it was going bad, they would probably be saying something very loud about how they're going to go get the United States in the future. But at the same time, they've said nothing. So I'm really not sure how to take it, to be honest with you.
I really don't know how to take it either, but it does appear that the United States is already preparing contingency plans in case of these talks fail, which is possibly showing that they have at least an idea that they may fail, or they may just be taking a necessary precaution. Nevertheless, a lot of people are saying that it indicates that the Iran talks are going to be failing. Others are saying that it's a negotiation tactic by the United States, and some are saying it's just a minor precaution, and others are unsure and undecided. But Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so 60% of the audience said it indicates failing Iran talks, while 26% said it's a negotiation tactic by the United States, and 6% said it's just a minor precaution. And on this one, this is a tricky one right here because, of course, typically speaking, with Iran being so hostile against the United States, we should have already had contingency plans in place to go in and attack Iran if these talks did not succeed. And I would imagine since we already moved in all of these assets from the United States military to the region, we already had some sort of plan because you have to have a plan in order to deploy those forces, and those forces have already been deployed. So I think this might be a negotiation tactic. This is one of these sort of like business type schemes to try to sort of make the other side feel like they got some leverage. And I think that could be what it is. So I think this could be the U.S. president's way of basically showing Iran that they're going through the motions of making a plan, but it's really just for cinematics or for show because the plan's already been made, I'm pretty sure. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that it is a little bit weird that we didn't have a contingency plan going into this already. You would believe that we already had a war plan largely drawn up with the Israelis for what we were already moving towards, which was a full attack against Iran. But apparently we didn't, and that may also be the reason why we entered the talks was because we actually didn't have a plan, and we're now trying to buy time, so that way we can come up with a plan even if this doesn't go through, which it most likely will not, because they are terrorists after all, and they are probably not going to agree to anything and keep their word, or they're probably still working on developing a nuclear weapon right now. Beyond that, I think this is clearly showing that the talks with Iran are planned to fail or are going to fail, because otherwise, if they really thought that the Iranians were going to back off, why in the world even create a contingency plan? And things would be on the down and out to the point that there would never be an idea or a thought of contingency plan or confiding in the Israelis about what the United States and Israel should do to Iran in the event of this talk going south. Why even talk to the Israelis if the talks were going good with Iran? There would be no reason to. You would be able to secure peace in the Middle East once and for all, and that would be that. So it seems to me that it is showing that the talks are not going too well, and that's why there's this preparation right now for a contingency plan being made, although a contingency plan should have already been made, at least in my opinion. But moving on from that and out of that little bit of news, it's time for us to move on up into some more interesting news, on up further inside of the state of Ukraine, as we have had a very large amount of interesting news coming from the state of Ukraine over the past 24 hours. Some good news, actually a good bit of good news, and of course some bit of unfortunate news that I'm sure many of you all have already heard about today, which we'll be covering in a very small way because we can't really show a lot of the clips and videos, but it is of course an unfortunate thing. Before we get into that though, I do want to quickly say that the fundraiser is going absolutely incredible. While I was trying to figure out what I'm saying, folks, I only got like maybe 3 hours of sleep last night because I just couldn't sleep for some reason. So I'm really struggling today. But beyond that, we've been able to raise $2,160 so far, and we're almost right at the fundraiser goal, just a couple of $100 away. Absolutely amazing stuff. And hopefully we will be able to hit the fundraiser goal here very soon, because we are only a bridge away, and it can't be a bridge too far. So hopefully we'll be able to see that we hit that fundraiser goal here incredibly soon, because I know one thing: the Lee Spring Army has never missed a goal over the entirety of its history, and I know that we're not going to be missing a goal as of tonight. As a matter of fact, folks, I think it is time. I think it is time for something that is an age-old tradition here on the Enforcer channel and here in the Lee Spring Army. Oh, never mind. Actually, Nicholas Condor just hit us over the goal. Like, Nicholas Condor,
look at that, 500 Canadian. We've hit the goal. Jaga, Igor. We smashed that goal. Look at it. It's been smashed. Absolutely smashing, I must say. Fantastic. Nicholas Condor with the 500 Canadian brought us well over the $2,500 goal. Fantastic. And huge shout to Nicholas for making that happen right there at the last second. And we appreciate that very much. That is fantastic, by the way. What is it? 40 minutes into the stream, we've smashed the goal already. I love to see it.
Absolutely crazy right there. Truly incredible. We've been able to see that once again tonight, thanks to the massive support by Nicholas Condor, which just sent us over the top, we were able to raise another $2,519 as of this point right now in support of Revive Soldiers of Ukraine. I've got to give a massive shout out to all of y'all. Revive Soldiers of Ukraine is an amazing nonprofit and an incredible fundraiser that we've been supporting for years. They help out Ukrainian soldiers that have been wounded on the front lines and are now behind the lines to recover from their near-fatal injuries. Some people are actually able to recover from gunshot wounds to the head thanks to Revive Soldiers of Ukraine, and amputees and other kinds of injuries are also helped by Revive Soldiers of Ukraine as well. It's an amazing, incredible thing that they do, and y'all support tonight is helping them to continue on their operations and continuing to help out the Ukrainian soldiery who has sacrificed much in the defense of their nation and also in the defense of the greater Western world and our combined security. So a huge thanks and a shout out to all of y'all who have supported that tonight. And also, you can still continue to support the fundraiser right now if you wanted to. The fundraiser doesn't shut down until midnight tonight, our time, so there is still a good bit of time to support this fundraiser before it's over, approximately about 2 hours or so. So make sure to support it while you can if you want to, but beyond this point, we have hit the goal, and if most people want to sit back and relax for the rest of the night, then by all means, please do make sure to, because we have hit the goal, and that's all we can ask of the Lee Spring Army, is that we hit the goal every single weekend. A truly amazing thing. But beyond that, I do see that Matthew has thrown up another question to y'all, speaking about the Germans providing those Taurus missiles. As Germany did say, it's finally willing to send the Taurus missiles to Ukraine amidst the Russian attacks, and a lot of people have been putting in their thoughts, and it seems like a decent amount of people are saying that it'll be a game changer, and some are saying that's going to be a little too late and too little in number. But Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so this is a very fresh poll right here. Of course, Germany has been flip-flopping on the Taurus missiles for a long time, and a lot of people have criticized Schultz for not sending those for years now, and that's been something they've been flip-flopping on, and Ukraine's been begging for these Taurus missiles. So now it looks like with the new administration coming into place in Germany, the new guy is willing to send them. At least he's saying that right now, and he takes charge in about a month. So we'll have to see if it actually happens. But it looks like 49% said that will be a game changer, while 28% said it's really too little too late, and 13% said it probably won't really happen. And long range missiles. That is something that Ukraine needs in the largest quantities they can possibly receive. And Taurus is a long range missile, to my understanding. So that will be a game changer, of course, because while they do have some long range missiles already being produced inside of Ukraine domestically, they do need supplements. And Taurus is a very potent system, and they've been begging for it. And I think they're going to find that very useful. And so far, we see no reason to doubt the new administration in Germany's word on this. I think they probably will end up sending them, and he seems pretty dead set on doing that. So hopefully they'll send them on through. I'm with the 48%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say, in my opinion, I think that they're going to be a game, well, not really a game changer, but they are going to be a certain welcome addition to the Ukrainian arsenal. As we have seen, that at least in recent times, the numbers of ATACMS, Storm Shadows, and Scalp EGs that the Ukrainians have at their disposal have been limited in number, and the Taurus missile pretty much fills the exact same role as the Scalp EG or the Storm Shadow. It's just that it's German in its production and design. So for that reason, this will be a welcome addition to the Ukrainian arsenal. Once again, this is going to be winning the war for them as a single weapon system, but it is going to be helping them out significantly in striking Russian commanders and other kinds of command posts and other forms of important logistical hubs and such things as that, to be able to provide enough damage that'll be able to give them a little bit of an extra edge in the war. So I think that I'll be with the 48%. It is a game changer in a way, but once again, there is no such thing as a Wunderwaffe or a single weapon that can actually just win a war on its own. It's largely just an amalgamation of good weapons, good training, and a large amount of funding that is able to overcome any obstacle or any enemy. So that largely would be
Well, I also heard that I think the fellow said something about sending the Glock or something like that to Ukraine. I'm not really sure if he was going to actually make that happen or not, but, rumors floating around.
Man, did he say that he was going to send the Glock in his Rari?
No, not the Glock. That's Austrian. He might send the Glock.
Oh, that bell-shaped UFO thing. Oh,
yeah. The Wunderwaffe.
Yeah, the Wunderwaffe. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Now I understand. Yeah, the Wunderwaffe. Yeah, jawohl, yeah. But anyways, beyond that, it is time for us to move on into a couple of questions, because I understand that many people have been chomping at the bits to get to some very good, juicy questions before we get into this Ukraine war segment. So, what do we got, Matthew? What do we got?
All right. So before we jump into our questions, let's give a big shout out to all of our top donors of the night. And of course, we can't call out every single donation because there's so many of them, but we can call out the top donations of the night to recognize the top donors. But once again, huge thanks to everybody that's donated tonight, because it's everybody that made this possible, not just the top donors. But of course, we have to call out some folks, so we have to call out the biggest ones, or otherwise we'd be here all night trying to read them all off. So while I'm at it and while I saw it, huge shout out to Michael Cook, who just threw in a $50 donation, and also huge thanks for that generosity. We also had the largest one of the night, which went to Nicholas Condor, who just threw in that 500 Canadian, which was massive, by the way. And huge shout out to Nicholas for making that happen. Also, a big shout out to Hal Rose, who just threw in a $333 donation, most likely. It says anonymous, but Hal usually throws in that 333. And a huge shout out to Hal for also making that happen. We also had a 200 from Just Chillin', as well as James Hughes, who threw in a 140. And then we had a 100 from Peace with War, as well as Activista. Some guy called it the Enforcer, as well as Hal Rose, who threw in a 100 for a combined of 433. Quick math. Also, we had a 100 from Captain Ted, as well as a 100 from Old Warrior and BC Skyman, as well as a 100 from Howard Mendelson. And then we had several $50 donations. The first one being from John King, as well as Axel K, Samuel Sizamanski, as well as Sparky 107, and then a 50 from Repo Man 46, and also Jay Darfler as well. And huge shout out to all the top donors and everybody tonight for helping to get us up to $3,100 raised, which is about $600 above the goal already. Tremendous to see once again on another Sunday on April the 13th of 2025. And Enforcer, tell us more.
I gotta say, it's a massive thing. A huge shout out and thanks to everyone who has supported the fundraiser tonight. We've been able to get up to a whopping total right now of an insane $3,102 in about less than an hour, which is absolutely incredible. And I always have to make sure to give a huge shout out to all of our top donors and the folks that we weren't able to call out. Each and every single one of y'all makes this fundraiser possible, whether it's a dollar donation or whether it's hundreds of dollars in a donation like Hal Rose or Nicholas Condor. We are entirely appreciative of every single one of y'all, because it is all of y'all who come together to make the Lee Spring Army a reality each and every day, and to make these fundraisers possible each and every single Sunday. And also, Speaking of which, I think it's time for us to drop a bombshell on y'all. A big old bombshell, because this is something that we have not brought up. Again, it's a little bit late, but I will make sure to bring it up to all of y'all so that we all know. Coming up on the 19th of April, which is going to be, I believe, the Friday of this upcoming week, if I'm correct, Matthew, or is it going to be the Saturday? Let me
It's going to be Saturday.
So coming up on the Saturday of this next weekend, we are not going to be running streams from then till Wednesday. So we are going to be gone during those days. There will be no Sunday fundraiser beyond this one, at least for now. We will have another Sunday fundraiser the Sunday after the next one, but we will be gone that Sunday, and we will once again be traveling the entirety of the United States to once again try and figure out where Enforcer HQ 3.0 may be. We cannot say exactly where we are going, but I'm sure many of y'all have a general idea of probably where we're going. And if you happen to be out and about in the streets or in a building somewhere and you happen to see us, feel free to approach us and say hello. We would love to see y'all. We'd love to say howdy to y'all. Maybe snap a picture. Maybe give y'all an autograph. I've never actually given anyone an autograph, unironically. It's always been ironically. I've always gone, hey, you know, I can do an autograph, and then I like give them an autograph and like force it on them. It's like a joke. And then they throw it away. But if you want one, you can get one. I don't know if we'll run into y'all. We don't really publicize a lot of where we're heading and what we're doing during those times for safety reasons and security reasons, because there's a lot of people who do not like us and there's a lot of people who do like us. So we always want to make sure to keep things on the down low a little bit. But beyond that, we are going to be out there on those streets, literally from end to end of the country for a couple of days, and hopefully we'll be able to see exactly where, or get a better idea of where Enforcer HQ 3.0 is going to be. Just in case y'all are wondering, what is up with that? Why do y'all need a headquarters? Because I've seen some people ask these questions. Why do y'all need a headquarters? Why not just run it out of your house? Well, that's kind of like the caveat. Like, the Enforcer HQ is the house. Like, the Enforcer HQ 1.0 was in the basement of our parents' house. Enforcer HQ 2.0 is our own townhouse. Enforcer HQ 3.0 is going to be another one in a different part of the country. So we've got to figure out where that's going to be, because we're trying to move the headquarters of the LSA out of Alabama. Not that we have anything wrong with the state of Alabama. It's just that, you know, we've lived here our entire lives, and to be entirely honest with y'all, there really isn't a whole lot to do, like in Alabama, and we want to go somewhere where there's a lot to do. We know that a lot of y'all may be, you know, a little bit, as we would like to call it from Alabama, not in a political way, but a little privileged. Y'all came from cities where there was always a lot to do, and then some people kind of like got a little bit of a perspective where they think that it's not that nice and it kind of sucks, but I promise you've never been to Alabama to really know what it's like. So once we went out there and we got a taste of that, honestly, like, to be entirely honest with y'all, once we got a taste of that West Coast life, like looking at the big cities, like Los Angeles and Seattle and stuff, we were honestly kind of blown away. We had never seen a city like that before in our lives. The biggest city we had ever seen before that was Atlanta, Georgia, and also the other biggest city we had seen before that was London over in the UK, which never would be an option to live in. So once we actually saw a real nice city that actually had some stuff in it, we were like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. We never knew it could be like that. So now we're trying to figure out if we can find a place like that to live in, so that way when we're not on air, we actually are doing something more than staring at a wall, which is largely what we've been doing so far. And I've been trying to spruce up my wall by creating like a model train layout on it, and Matthew's been trying, I think, to get like a motorcycle or something. But that's what we've been trying to do. But at this point, we are trying to find ourselves a HQ location. So we are going to be gone from the 19th, I believe, through to the 22nd or the 21st, looking for the HQ, and then we'll be right back here and then running those streams like clockwork again. So with that, we will hopefully be seeing y'all all once again soon after that little trip, but we will be here with y'all up till the day of, here on this next streaming week, from Tuesday to Friday. And then once we hit Friday, that will be the last streaming day of that week. Just want to make sure to get that out there to all of y'all, or really broadcast our schedule, at least at this moment, so that way we can get y'all a little bit of an idea of what's going on out there, and what's going to be happening with our scheduling side of things. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to move on into a couple of questions. And I also see some people saying, you're going to get tired of the big city. Oh, buddy, we lived in the country most of our life. Like, no joke, we lived in the middle of the woods. We were so far in the woods, we really didn't have a lot of friends growing up, because once we left the school, we went into the woods, and there was just nobody around, and we had no way to get around, so we really didn't have a lot of friends, and we really couldn't make a lot of friends, because there's no way to get to our friends from school. So, you know, we lived in the woods, we lived in the country, and I'll tell you, maybe you're from the city, the person who said that. Maybe you're from the city, and you think you'd get tired of it. Maybe you did get tired of it. You would like a change of scenery. But coming from where we came from, the change of scenery we're wanting is not to go back into the middle of the woods and be in the middle of nowhere. We kind of want to change stuff up. So with that, Matthew, what kind of questions do we have?
All right, so we've got some good questions coming in tonight. And also someone said, what motorcycle are you looking at, Matt? I'll jump into that in the question segment. I'll jump into it later. It's something fun and cheap, because I don't want to go into something crazy. So it does need something fun and cheap. I'll talk about that later. That's a good topic. I like that topic. But anyways, jumping into our first question of the night. This one is going to go to Andrea Scout, who said, any news from that fire on that nuclear silo thing in Orxie's land?
The news was kept pretty under wraps. We didn't really hear a lot of follow-up information. The fire is out now, I can confirm that, but we don't have any follow-up information about the damage inside of the facility. But we were able to, one thing we were able to confirm is that the fire was inside the facility within the perimeter. So we do know that. We are thinking it was within the northwestern area, but it doesn't appear the video and picture evidence of the damage is forthcoming whatsoever, possibly because of some stringent security protocols at that facility. But at this point, the fire is out. There was no radiological damage or radiation damage in the surrounding area from the fire, but still a fairly interesting event nevertheless. I hope that addresses that somewhat well. Once again, that's just working off of our limited knowledge that we have. And once again, the Russians really aren't forthcoming with a lot of information. And it doesn't even really appear that a lot of Russian military bloggers talked about that much. Beyond the fact that there was a fire around Saratov, and then they left it at that. They didn't say exactly where the fire was or any of the subsequent damage that was caused from it. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion, from what we would know right now. But a very good question, nevertheless, and great know that people want to follow up on that story. But with that, we are on to the next question of this segment.
Also, for the people asking this, because they're like, well, why are you guys talking like that? We're brothers, by the way, in case people don't know that. Some people are like, are you friends from the military or something? Also, we were not in the military either, so we're just brothers. So that's why we're talking like that. But anyways, jumping into our next question here, this one goes to Nigel, who says, can you guys cover how Russia is using Bitcoin to fund their war efforts?
I actually have not heard about that at all. I don't really follow a lot of the cryptocurrency stuff. Like, you know, don't take my financial advice as financial advice, but I look at everything crypto as a scam of some kind. Like, it's not attached. Like, if people have always said that U.S. money is a scam, it's a fiat currency because it's not backed up by anything, then what is crypto? I mean, it's that on a worse scale. If you want to call the U.S. dollar a fiat currency, cryptocurrency to me is far worse. So I never pay attention to anything that goes on in the cryptocurrency world. I mean, the only time I've ever paid attention was when that Haley Welch girl pulled that Hawk Tua and scam on that whole deal. And then the SEC went after her like white on rice, and then she disappeared off the whole internet. That was the only time I've ever paid attention to crypto over the past few years, because I just found that funny. I heard about it before it happened, the rug pull side of that, and they were like, oh my god, Haley Welch, the Hawk Tua girl, is going to be making a cryptocurrency. I was like, wow, that sounds like some kind of a scam. And then it came out, and like, I think it was something like her or the company she was running owned like 90% of the wallet, and as soon as the price skyrocketed, they just dumped the whole thing and made a couple of million off of it, but just ruined people's lives in the process of doing that. And I was like, hey, look, it was a scam. And then the SEC started investigating her, and then she disappeared from everything. But that was the only time I ever paid attention to crypto recently.
Yeah, that's actually not so clear anymore, because the SEC actually apparently dropped the charges. So I'm not really sure if any of that was actually accurate or not. So I think they let her go. So apparently they didn't find any wrongdoing, or at least on her part.
Huh, that's interesting. That's very interesting, because there was one guy out there, man, on YouTube who was like very adamant about that, and he made a very convincing case. Maybe it wasn't convincing enough, I suppose. But there was also another guy who did another pump and dump scam with the whole crypto thing. But we can't touch that one because that, for some reason, like that one, the Hawk Tuah one's just kind of like funny. But when I cover the other one, because it deals with this guy, then it becomes like a whole political thing for some reason, so we can't really touch it. But that's the only times I've ever paid attention to crypto. So I would not know how Russia is funding their war with Bitcoin. That would just be completely out of my purview. But with that, I hope that addresses that somewhat well, or at least my lack of knowledge on that. And it's time for us to get on into the final question of this segment right here before we get into the Ukraine war news. So what is our final question of this segment, Matthew?
So this one goes to Flash Gordon, and he says, if you crash Russia's economy, let's say the oil price keeps going lower and lower due to other actions by the United States and China, then that is going to push Putin to push the big red button. And what are your thoughts?
I don't really necessarily think so, because there has to be a better justification than your economy getting screwed. Because if that was a perfect justification for a nuclear war, the Soviet Union actually could have done that, because that was really one of the major things that led to the Soviet Union collapsing. It kind of was. Let's see how to describe this. I just want to make this clear. This isn't political, just put that out there. People are very touchy about this kind of shit these days. But it wasn't really just Reagan standing in front of the Berlin Wall and going, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. That wasn't really what brought down the Soviet Union. What brought down the Soviet Union was 20 years of economic mismanagement, because a centrally planned economy, believe it or not, is an incredibly hard thing to run. And also, the Soviet Union's bureaucracy was incredibly incompetent. So incredible incompetence combined with an incredibly difficult system to run, you largely come into economic stagnation and economic decline towards the latter phase of that form of an economic system, which is what the Soviet Union was facing. And so, largely due to that mismanagement, the economy in the Soviet Union was falling inwards on itself. It was caving in, and that's really what was the big thing that led to the collapse of the Soviet Union, and also the collapse of the Soviet Union's power to pretty much control the Warsaw Pact, and what led to pretty much the revolution in the Warsaw Pact that saw everyone break free from its communist chains, and then finally become a democratic, more so Western-aligned country than a Soviet-aligned country. Nevertheless, with that in mind, if there was a good justification to use nuclear weapons, Gorbachev would have had a good one to use from 1989 to 1991, but he never did. And I don't really think Putin can have a good justification for that either, because even in modern Russian nuclear doctrine, it is fairly clear that they have to be under some form of an existential crisis due to an armed invasion to actually justify the use of nuclear weapons from any regard. So conducting a nuclear war due to bad economics would be a little bit tough. Also, that means you could justify nuclear conflict at any given moment. Like, the Russians could just go through a natural economic depression due to, say, a real estate crisis in Russia, and then we have to be scared that they're going to start firing nukes our way when we weren't even really involved in that. So that would be my take, at least for now. I don't really think that they would fire nukes over a bad economic situation, even if it was brought on by Western sanctions, because that would be considered to be entirely rash for the most part by many, including people inside of Russia, I would assume. But I see some people saying stuff, let's see, the USSR made collective decisions. I would disagree with that. The Soviet Union was largely known for having a near dictatorship sort of a structure. The Politburo would select a premier of the Soviet Union. That premier pretty much held executive power as a dictator their entire tenure, unless the Politburo overthrew them. So I would not really say that there was collective voting that was really existing in the Soviet Union. The Communist Party in the Soviet Union and the Communist Party in China really only exist to bolster and uphold the legitimacy of a singular person, which usually is the dictator of the country, like Joseph Stalin, like Brezhnev, like Gorbachev, like any of them really, or like Xi Jinping. The idea of collective voting or collective representation in these countries simply does not exist because the ideology really doesn't allow for that. The ideology has a strict kind of a guideline that it's really supposed to be interpreted by, and if anyone's trying to interpret it in a way that seems to be somewhat different, they are going to be labeled a traitor to the state. That means that that ideology at its most basic form is supporting some form of a militant continuance or a militant creation of an ideology that must be upheld and supported through militant means and measures, adhered to by the letter as the ideologue laid it out. So with that in mind, there is no way to have collective decision making, because if you say it is important for the party to exact communism around the globe and we must conduct endless warfare to exact this communism globally, and then some other guy says, I think that communism largely remains within our borders, guess what? You're an an enemy of the state, you're not a communist, you're a communist, you're an enemy of the state and enemy of the Communist Party, and you will be destroyed. That's how it's always worked in the Soviet Union and China. And that kind of a system doesn't support collective decision making. That more so supports a dictator who says something, and then the entire party agrees with them because they're all scared of having their heads chopped off for disagreeing. Literally, the existence of the Soviet Union created that way under Lenin, continued certainly under that way through Stalin, and then all the other premiers and leaders beyond that largely kept some sort of a semblance of that until Gorbachev, and then even with him still largely running the country with an iron fist for the large part on the governmental level, they still overthrew him at the end, and then they brought forward a fake half-assed democracy in Russia that was then quickly crushed in 1993 by Boris Yeltsin, and then Boris Yeltsin was superseded by Putin, and the dictatorship continues alive to this day. No collective decision-making has ever really existed at a governmental level inside of Russia at any given point in their history. So with that, I hope that addresses that somewhat well, at least at a detracting statement. And with that, it is time for us to move on into the remainder of our news for the night. And boy, howdy, folks, do we have a lot of news to cover still? There is a lot of news. And also, I see some people saying, pull up East Germany. Interestingly enough, East Germany is actually a fairly interesting country when it comes to the Warsaw Pact for the large part. East Germany actually was punished by the Soviet Union quite a good bit after the war. But one other thing that was really interesting as well is that while they were punished, the Soviets actually pretty much forced the East Germans into making their uniform almost identical, very much so, to the ones of Nazi Germany, as a constant reminder of what they were or what they came from. And let me see if I can show y'all. Yeah, right there. Those uniforms are actually very, very close outside of the helmet and some minor uniform adjustments to the original uniforms of the here under the Wehrmacht of Adolf Hitler, which is actually a bit of an interesting story there. The helmets were a slight adjustment, but still largely retained their Germanic shape, kind of. It was almost like an SSH-68 helmet, but Germanified, if you want to put it that way. But it's a very interesting uniform design. Beyond that, East Germany in its earlier history was actually the manufacturer of a larger amount of the Soviet Union's computational systems, but as the decades went on, the East Germans and their prominence in computational systems and also advanced electronics began to wane, and it actually ended up becoming the state of Ukraine, which was a Soviet republic that was actually within the USSR that started to become the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact's main supplier of electronics components and advanced forms of computational technology, even though, by Western standards, advanced Soviet computational technology was decades behind ours towards the end of the Cold War, which was an important reason why they also lost, because the Soviet Union was not able to conduct the infinite or millions of computations that the West was able to conduct due to our computers, which was giving us a massive edge economically. The Soviet Union was just not able to keep up, and that's another decent reason why they actually lost the Cold War and why economic stagnation and decline set in, is because they just simply stopped being competitive at any level, even domestically, against the West. And there was a whole bunch of other things that went on as well. There's like a million different reasons why the Soviet Union collapsed, but that's one of the pieces. But anyways, I hope that does address that somewhat well. Have y'all ever seen a Soviet computer? Matthew, have you ever seen a Soviet computer?
I have, by the way. I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but I've seen a picture of one of them.
Let me type this in. Soviet computers. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah, there we go. There's one of them.
Oh, yeah, man. That's the ENIAC, I believe.
Yeah, let's see. I think they stole one of those, or at least copied one heavily. But I'm trying to see here. Oh, yeah, here's a Ural 1. This was one of their first computers.
A Ural like after the truck?
Kind of, yeah. It's like, I think it's made by the same company, actually.
That's kind of fascinating. Computers, trucks, a little bit of everything. Honestly, like all this, like I will say this: the Soviet design, like philosophy of like this, like grayscale looking design with all these like tactile buttons on it and stuff like that. I know pretty much everything of this era looks like that, but the Soviet version of the stuff has like a really like kind of cool Cold War look to it. I kind of like it.
Man, honestly, man, there was a lot of like earlier IBM computers. Let me see, early IBM computers that looked like that were actually pretty neat too. Let's see here. I'm wanting to see one of the massive ones though, because honestly, they were pretty neat. Dang, dude, they know I have a lot of good pictures of the like supercomputers that they had in the rooms. Dang, dude, where in the world are they? I'm trying to see if there's a good picture showing like the control panel and stuff. Maybe that's the best one. kind of similar.
Yeah, it's like manual like switching or whatever they called it. I don't know what they really called this, but it was where everything was hooked up like through cords and wires and stuff, like all of them.
Man, honestly, man, the old computers were incredibly cool. Completely obsolete compared to modern computers in every single way. My computer can outdo every single computer running in the world at the same time in the 50s in computational power, but they're still incredibly interesting looking because of how large they were. And they just needed all that size just to be able to conduct simple computations that would be conducted on a modern smart calculator in some kid's middle school class these days. But beyond that, I want to see if I can find you one of the other computers that they had. Oh yeah, they just started stealing IBM computers by like the end of the Cold War. You can actually see that that's an IBM computer, and they were just selling them because the Soviet computational technology had fallen so far behind by the 70s that the Soviet Union pretty much just started abandoning their own computer program because they knew that it really couldn't keep up to speed with the West. So then they just started to import and steal IBM computers to sell in the Soviet Union because that was the only way that they could get a comparable computer, was to just steal one.
Honestly, those kind of look slightly reminiscent of like the first Apple Macintosh a little bit, but not really. The monitor's a little bit different, and also the frame of it is too, but looks vaguely similar to it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing with how all of those early computers, like, honestly, they all look the same, kind of like how smartphones all look the same these days. But you know, another interesting thing, folks, that y'all may not know, and this is something that I've always found really cool about IBM, because some people are like, IBM, LOL. IBM actually created M1 carbines under a contract in World War II. And you can actually find these things all over the place. This is a gun that was made by IBM.
Man, IBM was out here slinging lead before they got in the competition of those. They were not messing around.
Yeah, look, you can actually see it right there on the receiver. It says IBM Corporation right there.
Well, you know what's fascinating about all the companies of this era is how they would branch out into other stuff. Like, it's really insane how they did that. Like, for example, I just learned yesterday that American Express, which is the credit card and banking company today, used to be a transportation business before they got into banking. And same thing with Wells Fargo too. They did the like stagecoach carriage things like for transportation as well. And somehow they got right into banking. It's kind of crazy how companies of the old day would like jump into so like varied industries like this.
Well, Wells Fargo actually wasn't that far off because Wells Fargo was pretty much like the Brinks armored car of their day. That's what their wagon business was. And let me see Wells Fargo history. Because I want to find you the Wells Fargo wagons. Let's see here. Let me see if I can get you the history of them. Here we go. So, these were
Also, someone said, "What does IBM stand for?" It's International Business Machines.
Yeah, and originally IBM back in the day, back during the World War II time, they produced punch machines, like the wall punch machines, you know, to clock in and out of work. So it wasn't really that many steps removed from creating a carbine or a gun. So when World War II came around, they just switched from making time punch machines, and they went straight into making guns, in the hundreds of thousands actually. But they're a more rare version of the carbine, and I've always been wanting to get my hands on one of them, because I have a Saginaw steering gear division M1 carbine, but I always wanted an IBM just for the fact that, you know, it's the computer company of the modern day that was making a gun. You know, that's like pretty sick when you think about it. But beyond that, back in the day, the Wells Fargo company provided pretty much like the armored car of their day, for money transportation from place to place, and also transportation of other more rare or valuable goods. That was their entire business. So it made a little bit more sense for them. It was almost like a direct step. It's like, well, if we're transporting the money, why don't we just run the bank so that way we're moving our own money from place to place instead of moving it for other people? And that's how their bank evolved. But it's really weird, honestly, man, how like some companies hop from thing to thing or place to place. Like Malcolm McLean. Let's see here. Malcolm, I spelled that all wrong. Malcolm, I spelled it again wrong. Whatever, we'll just go with it. McLean. And let me see if I can find the guy. Yeah, here we go. This guy right here. He started off as a poor dude in Georgia that ended up running a gas station. Dude, honestly, man, everyone in the South who ever made it, like Colonel Sanders and this guy, all started working for gas stations for like Standard Oil. Like, totally weird. But
Yeah.
beyond
You know what's crazy about that is when they run the gas stations and they never had the motivation to really take it big until they got all gassed up.
Honestly, man, you're right. Like, I never thought of it like that, but you're honestly right. I respect that, Matthew. You're getting promoted today. But beyond that, what's interesting about this man is that he ran a Standard Oil gas station just like Colonel Sanders at the exact same time. Like, that's the weird thing about this. But instead of him working on cooking up a good fried chicken, this guy ended up driving his own delivery truck from the gas station elsewhere to pick up stuff for his gas station, also to drop off stuff for other people. And he grew it into a massive trucking business called McLean Trucking. And let me see if I can find you all that business and show you all what it looked like. Oh, they just completely glossed over his like whole McLean Trucking. Oh, here it is. I'll just pull this up instead. Maybe we can find it. McLean Trucking. This was his company right there. McLean Trucking right there. Became a massive business, actually.
That must be Adam McLean's relative right there. Look at that.
I think so. I mean, maybe. But
McLean, like GMC, like, look at that. Look. Come on, Jack.
But man, this company actually got very close to the modern day. I think it got absorbed in like JB Hunt or something like that. But beyond that, this company was pretty big. And then this guy just went, whatever. He sold off his company. And then he went on to create, I think it was called Pan Atlantic Shipping or something like that. It was a shipping company that ran not container ships, but cargo ships. And this guy right here is pretty much the Henry Ford or the Thomas Edison of his realm, because like both of those guys, Henry Ford didn't invent the car and Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb, but they were the ones to take it mainstream and really make the thing blow up. Malcolm McLean did that with shipping containers, and in the process, this guy actually changed the way the world conducted shipping. And he's literally this guy right here. This guy with that face and that fedora is the very guy who brought in the globalized shipping industry and manufacturing base that we see today as a standard. If it wasn't for that guy, it really wouldn't have existed the way it does now.
With that face, that's crazy.
Man,
Also,
look at that mug.
It's just the way you said that. It's just the way you said that. It's like, can you believe this guy with this face took it this far? It's like, what do you mean by that?
When you think about it though, like it's like you know what Henry Ford looks like, and you know what Thomas Edison looks like. Like people actually probably do know what they look like because you see their pictures in class all the time when you're growing up. You never see this guy's face, and honestly, his innovation was as big as the Model T or the standard carbon filament light bulb. It's like this was as big in a totally different category, a major American step forward and a major American innovation that's used literally around the world to this day. It's ubiquitous. Every country in the world uses container boxes, and you will never hear of this guy or see his face in any single history book, which is honestly a major disservice.
Yeah, that's interesting, but overall, an interesting rabbit hole.
Yeah, an interesting rabbit hole there. But beyond that, I hope I shared that with an interesting story with y'all, and I hope y'all enjoyed it because y'all had no choice but to listen. So I hope y'all enjoyed it beyond that. But moving on from that, it is time for us to get on into the remainder of our news, and it's time for us to move on into Ukraine. We were able to hear the air defense report, and the air defense report was good. 55 drones were launched in Ukraine, 43 of them were shot down, and another 12 were suppressed by electronic warfare means, meaning that for the first time ever, it was actually a 100% interception rate. We've never seen that in a single air attack over the entirety of the war. Meanwhile, inside the Kursk Oblast, we were also able to see Ukrainian MiG-29 dropping hammers on a Russian staging ground inside of Kursk. Oh,
wow, look, they dropped it and they dropped the whole building. Why does this look like an old British worker town?
Honestly, man, it looks like Manchester.
It really does.
Man, Manchester United. Manchester FC.
Also, big shout out to Greg Carey, who's doing it 100, by the way. Brought us to 3,400 and $12 raised. Fantastic. And huge shout out to Greg.
Holy smokes. That's impressive right there. Huge shout out to Greg Carrier. We also got to see a Ukrainian drone destroying a Kuksan SPG. We see them coming on in here with the Kuksan SPG.
Man, this is a North Korean creation, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, North Korean SPG. And they're cooking it up. Gary's way. Cooking it up Gary's way. That thing's burning quite ferociously. Those things seem to be made out of kindling more so than steel. We also see them hitting a Ural. I see them just
Oh,
slamming
wow.
him. Another Ural taken out.
Right there on the front.
And that's seeing the clip, but very impressive to see. Moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see them firing grenades at the Russians with a grenade launcher. We're going to be muting the alien music. There's a conspiracy going on out here, but we're not a part of it.
And look at that. He's doing a good job right there. I don't see him firing anything.
He's about to be firing here in a second. He's about to start laying down that heat. Oh, they blurred him out for like 2 seconds, and then they stopped. And he's firing again. I thought he was about to show up on Live Leak after he got blurred like that. I was like, uh-oh. We see this guy throwing up the call me sign and getting a fist bump. And now they're firing the grenade launcher at night. They're firing them at night. You see them moving on down the road right here. Take a look at that. Someone said 1 hour, 22 minutes, Ukraine war news. Well, you want the news or not? We're giving it to you, so be grateful. Say thank you. We can see them firing the grenade launcher a little bit extra. Matthew seems to be laying down the heat on this individual. I've seen this every night as well. That's why I was like, you know what? If Matthew's saying something about it, I'll say something about it. But anyways, we can see them continuing to fire that grenade launcher there. And Kid Corporate got the joke. I'm making them at night. That's exactly what I was going for. We're cooking grilled cheese at night. That's how we do it around here. That's how I do it. I know I do it that way. I'm cooking grilled cheese at night. I'm up all night long. I get no sleep. I got 3 hours of sleep last night. I've been exhausted all day, and I'm still here, and I'm still knocking out this news.
Have you been checked for insomnia?
I think I'm getting it these days, man. I think it might be because I quit coffee cold turkey. I think that might be one of the reasons why. So it's like throwing everything.
That could be it.
Yeah, I think
there was rumors in my town that insomnia was going around, but I beat it.
He beat the charges.
I beat insomnia.
Oh, he threw them the birds. Next thing you know, he's going to be throwing them the bees. The Russians will be having the birds and the bees on him. He's now petting the grenade launcher. He's giving him another middle finger. This guy's giving middle fingers to the Russians as much as he's giving out nades. We now see him firing some more nades. We see them continuing to fire the grenade.
Someone came in hard just a minute ago. They said, if that person's anything like my mother, the same name, no, she won't stop. I detect some interesting feelings here. Like I think someone might be biased against that person already.
It sounds a little interesting, but nevertheless, we're going to be moving on into something that's a little bit more of an unfortunate topic today. That requires us to be a little bit more serious at this point because I'm sure many of y'all have heard about it, and of course, it was an unfortunate tragedy. We're not going to be giving it a large amount of time tonight. We are going to be talking about it though because it was a very unfortunate thing to the point that was mentioned by literally everybody in the world. We were able to see that the Russians did conduct a major missile attack on Sumy today. 2 ballistic missiles hit the city center, killing dozens. It was an absolutely unfortunate thing. We were able to see some of the smoke rising from the city right here, and we also were able to see an additional clip actually showing the impacts further down the street when the missiles hit, which we can see right here. When you see the first missile impacting, we see people running down the street away from the impact.
Music.
Well, I mean, it's background music, but we can see the smoke rising from the missile. And we see people continuing.
These bastards just aren't going to stop. They're just not going to stop until like somebody actually intervenes. Like the United States just can't keep talking because if Russia's still doing those while they're allegedly trying to pursue peace talks, and now they're ramping up strikes on civilians again, it's obvious they're not going to stop. So the response by the United States of this is why we're going to keep talking because there's still work to be done is just a really lame brain response.
Yeah, the statement by the Secretary of State today was the Russian terrorists just killed a couple of more dozen people, innocent people in the middle of Sumy. That's why we're going to continue to talk to the Russian terrorists, because it's quite clear that by talking to them, they'll start killing less people. It's like, well, they were killing these people before you were talking to them. They're killing them while you're talking to them. What makes you think that talking to them more is going to stop this? Because it appears that it's not going to stop either way, so it'd be better just to double down and start bombing the Russians. It seems like that would be the answer. But moving on from that unfortunate situation in Sumy and on into our location unknowns, we were able to see a new Ukrainian ground drone being shown off by Ukrainian aid ops today. Take a look at this. See them scooting around. Pretty neat little thing right there. Omnidirectional, as a matter of fact.
Man, I like that thing right there. It's like the garden like trailer thing, but it's been upgraded significantly with off-road tires. I like that.
Man, pretty neat, honestly. And they got a little itty-bitty version of it right there,
Oh,
too.
look. Man, I can already hear the Russian propagandists right now. Look, they made a small one for the children to send them into battle billet.
Yeah. Honestly, man, it's like dead on the nail. Dude, it's a
Who's
little bit...
controlling it, though? The guy in the cart?
I don't really know, actually.
Yeah, it looks like he's not moving anything, so maybe it's remote control?
Yeah, I think it's remote controlled, actually.
Interesting. Man, I could see someone getting pranked bad with this right here if they were like trying to pull a prank or something. Like just sling somebody out of it.
Man, that thing seems like it's got some torque behind it, man, and they're just not really gassing it right now.
Man, they should floor it.
Man, they should. I'm honestly waiting to see if they will. They're really just showing how it can traverse the terrain, but I want to see it get floored.
I would hate for that thing to like flip over on me, though. Like it looks like it could be a little bit top heavy, a little bit if it went over too big of a mound.
Yeah, kind of. It looks like it might be a little concerning. But moving on from that and into our next clip, we also get to see a new naval drone being presented today as well, called the Alligator 9. Take a gander at this thing. Very sleek, very flat looking in some edges. Words are not my strong suit tonight. And Matthew's mic's cutting in and out. What were you saying, Matthew?
Oh, very nice.
All I heard was, yes. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right. Very impressive drone, though. Very neat alligator. We'd love to see it. Hopefully, it will be used here soon. We also got the casualty report as well, which was published by Miss Disa. And, one bobcat. One bobcat.
One bobcat skid steer. The type that steers would skid. But tell us more.
And Miss Decent, keeper of the records, was able to break down the numbers. The 71 artillery is the 11th highest, tied with 2 other days in the summer of 2024, along with 147 drones being the 24th highest daily loss, 143 vehicles being the 17th highest, and 1 Bobcat for Enforcer Matt. And what a good day it was. And it's time to get into those official numbers more deeply. 1,220 Russian soldiers have been wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, along with 33 APCs, 143 supply trucks, 12 main battle tanks, 71 artillery pieces, 147 drones, 1 anti-aircraft warfare system, and 1 Bobcat skid steer. All in all, it was an incredibly good day, and it's good to see the Ukrainians are continuing to inflict decently high casualties onto the Russian Federation's armed forces. Meanwhile, we got to see the Russians getting hit up in the northern area of Kharkiv today by the Ukrainians as they attempted an assault. It appears that the assault was repelled, and the Russians took decent losses in the process. When you see the Russian vehicle getting hit for the first time right there.
There's a first time for everything, and there's a first time for getting hit.
Man, it's like the first kiss, but the very violent and explosive. Oh, you see them driving on? Can't really tell if they're still in control. Yeah, they're still in control of the vehicle. They're swerving it. I don't think they're in control of it anymore, though.
Man, I'll tell you what. I don't think they are.
And that's the end of that clip, but slow. And with coleslaw indeed. Moving on from that and further down the line, we also get to see a Russian tank getting destroyed by the 58th Motorized Brigade. Check this out. Here comes the tank, and here comes the drone. It's a head-on collision of the two. We now see one drone hitting the tank and a second one hitting the tank. There it goes. By yonder, by yonder. They're getting her. We see it getting hit, and they're cooking them up again. Look at that. They're cooking them up like a sweet southern barbecue. An absolutely impressive hit right there, and they're going to be hitting them again.
Man, they should go live on Meta and say we're smoking these meats out here in this meat smoker. Oh, man.
Man, they should say, they should go out there and say that they now believe in free speech after suppressing it for, 8 years. Like, that's what they should do.
They should bring out a corporate bottle of Sweet Baby Ray's and slather it all over that free speech.
Man, I'm telling you, man. And then they ought to pretend like they're all for free speech after they've not ever been for it. That's odd. That's what they should do. And now, Matthew, we're throwing people's political compasses for a loop because some people want to say we're this and some people want to say we're that. But honestly, we have our own opinions on everything. So it's kind of not really working within people's metrics. People's minds are being fried right now, and we're going to see a wave of cussings coming our way. Meanwhile, we got to see the Russian assault also getting turned back near Kupiansk in this clip right here.
I'm telling you, I mean, call this a reticle, but that thing's honing in like a homing missile.
Man, it is homing in. We can see them getting a T-72. Actually, I'm not sure if that was a T-72. It may have been a T-80. But we can see them also getting another shed. Boom, right on the side. Holy moly.
Also, someone said, guys, if you move out to a certain type of state, make sure you research everything about weapons ownership. For example, they try to get rid of your weapons. Honestly, that's a good point, actually, because some of these states, they don't let you keep your guns. They like to take them.
But it kind of is what it is. But moving on from that and further on down the line in the Severonsky Forest, we also get to see the 12th Special Operations evacuating wounded soldiers from the Severonsky Forest.
Whoa, call this a forest because this thing's looking like the haunted back rooms or something.
It kind of does, honestly.
This is the forest right here you would not want to get caught in at night, and they got caught in it right at night.
Man, this is where Slender Man's usually at, and you have to pick up those notebooks off the side of the trees.
This looks like Mississippi when I was driving through at midnight.
Man, honestly, that's not that far off. Mississippi looks like hell, man.
Man, it's scary out there in Mississippi. The scariest things out in Mississippi is the state troopers are flying around at night. Honestly. Oh, man. Pitch black until you see some car flying up at 150 miles an hour at midnight in Mississippi, and you're like, who's that? And it's a state trooper. You're like, oh, my God, what the hell are they doing? What are these guys even doing out here at this late of the hour?
Oh, they're
I see one
evacuating
chasing
wounded.
one. Oh.
Yeah, that was explained at the start of the video. Well, now.
Well, maybe I didn't hear it.
I mean, maybe you didn't. I'm sure you were busy. But like I said it like a minute ago. You're like, what are they doing out here? I was like, oh, they're evacuating wounded. But let's see. I saw someone say. I saw someone in the chat say, enforcer falls into his own class of political things. Not really. Well, yeah, for the large part nowadays, yes. But it's an interesting thing because. And someone said, you walk a fine line between not talking politics and clearly talking politics. Look at that. Let's see. And someone said, my impersonation of the current president was absolutely disgusting. Like, boo-hoo, dude. Grow up. Stop being a snowflake. Like, we did Biden for 3 years when he was president. We did him every single night, and it got nothing but laughs. And then we do Trump, and, like, little whiny bitches want to complain about, like, we're insulting their god or something. Like, grow up, dude. Like, it's just some dude. I mean, he's an old-ass guy, just like the last guy. This guy's orange. The last dude was pale white. Grow up. It's a joke. If you can't handle a joke, you're weak. It's a hilarious joke. People get kicks out of it. If you worship a guy that much that doesn't even know who the hell you are and doesn't give a shit about you, you might have issues. Like I said that about the people who supported Biden, I'm going to say that about the same people who support Trump. I'm not for that. I'm not into that cult worshiping stuff, and I'm not going to sit around and pander to your cult worshiping if you're a Democrat or a Republican. That's why we don't get into the politics stuff here, and that's why we're not going to do it tonight. We're not going to do it for three past years. We're not going to do it for the next 3 years while this guy's the president. That's how we've always done it. That's how we roll, and that's how I'm going to keep rolling. So you can take that shit and go to Ben Shapiro or the Young Turks who are the Democrats, or Ben Shapiro who's a Republican, and you do that stupid stuff over there all day, every day. But we don't do that stupid stuff here. I'll make fun of everyone. No one's off the table. So moving on from that and down on into Kurtubivka, we also get to see them hitting some pretty significant Russian attack columns. And we can see them slamming them.
Oh, man. Someone said, you seem a little tense.
Yeah, like it's like yeah, I am tense because it just gets old. Like it gets so old because I remember back in the day when for the past 3 years, I'll tell you what was happening. Every single day, we were being called MAGA Republican Nazis. We were getting attacked by other Ukraine war YouTubers every damn day for just breathing. And then we were getting attacked by people who would just email us stupid shit and then say they were like secret Republicans or something. And I was like, okay, whatever. We took it for 3 years. And then the election happens, and then the president's no longer a Democrat. Now they're a Republican. And now, all of a sudden, now we're these snowflake liberals all of a sudden, and we hate Trump, or something. And it's that now. It's like people just want to attack us like a small group of people do, and it gets so annoying because we just try and have jokes and like actually use our brains, and it's like it's just so annoying that people can't take a joke because we joke on everyone. We joked on Biden for 3 straight years, like live on the show. We were doing his voice and everything, and then we joke on Trump, and then all of a sudden these cult worshippers want to have a problem. Honestly, it was the Biden cult worshippers who were having the problem with us for the last 3 years. Oh. Now it's the Trump cult worshippers that are having the problem with us, and it's like these people just got to grow up and get a life. I mean, they're just jokes. It's not like my jokes are not going to make the president dematerialize and make him disappear. So like just grow up about it. It's just a joke, and I'm getting like it just gets old. Like every single time you just try and have a little bit of fun or just try and joke around with people, you have some random loser, who comes out of like a squalor pit somewhere who has nothing going on in their lives but to be angry, and then they want to come and make it our problem and cuss us out because we're just trying to have a bit of fun with all of y'all. It just gets old. But anyways, moving on from that and down into Toretsk, we did get to see that the Ukrainians were continuing to advance through the city and were continuing to attack and take out Russian positions today. We also got to see the work of the Ukrainian engineers in the city clearing out buildings filled with Russians. And we can see them here getting ready to drop in the charges. We see them actually whipping out a ladder. And they're about to head on in. We see them with a satchel and everything. They're climbing up the ladder. And it looks like they're tossing it on in. Can't really tell. The graphical quality isn't that great. And they're off they go. They're leaving the ladder behind. At this point, the ladder is the least of their concerns. But they're getting the hell out of there because this building's about to go. And there goes the charge. And it actually doesn't look like the building came down. And that was the end of the clip, but very impressive to see. And with that, we are on to our next clip inside Tourette's, where we also get to see them clearing out the city piece by piece. Take a gander at this. This was by the Azov.
Look, there's some Ruskies in the side corner, please. Today we're going to be eating the orange chicken with the fried rice. Welcome to my mukbang channel.
It's like, what the hell? It's like... Oh, and we
have 762 for them to have some spares.
Man, that's like that worm that's been making the rounds on Instagram. Have you seen it, man? It's like some Russian worm from a cartoon. He's like, welcome to the mining competition. It's like, what the hell?
Oh, man. Is it better now?
Dude, I wish I could do the voice of that worm. It sounds so creepy. It's like, it's like something like this. Like, what the hell? It's like, bro, is that worm all right?
Is the Russian worms not okay?
It is the Russian worm. It's very similar to Japanese.
It's like, honestly, I wouldn't doubt it. It's like, it sounded like that.
Actually, I don't think so.
You see them continuing to clear out these buildings here. Oh, and there went the charge. The grenade is in the building.
What are the charges, good sir? Standing in a building? A nice Russian building?
What are the charges, sir? Enjoying a grenade? A succulent F1 grenade? How dare you, sir? Get your hands off my charging handle.
I mean, whoa, call him handsy, but I don't think you're supposed to rack another person's charging handle. That seems a little bit intrusive.
I mean, these guys might be like the TSA, but they're getting a little handsy.
It's not it's not weird if it's the TSA.
I mean, you know, they have the Me Too movement, but when TSA does it, it's all right. Honestly, the TSA, like, all jokes aside, is a little too handsy for my liking.
Honestly, I've never really had them get handsy with me. I'll be
All
honest
right.
with you.
All right, come over here. The metal detector didn't work too well, so we got to fondle your balls. Come on over. We got to fondle your balls. It's like, I don't like that. It's like, I don't like that. I don't like being treated like I'm possibly, like, carrying some sort of a explosive on me. You know? It's like, this is ridiculous.
The last time I went through the TSA line, I went through with no problem. Like, nobody like did any extra touchy-feely or anything like that. I just went through the scanner and just let me on through. But then after I turned around and put my shoes on, I looked behind me, and the guy behind me was absolutely basically just getting molested. I was like, bro, I was like, what the hell? I was like, thank God that didn't happen to me. I'd have been freaking in shock, bro. I'd have been like, what the hell is going on? And the guy looked shocked. Like, the look on his face was like, maybe one of Cat robs men or something like that at one point. I was like, bro, I'm like, I don't know why they just let me through without a problem. I'm like, thank God for that.
Dude, I remember when we went to Britain and back, man, I got molested on both ends, like by the TSA. They went to town. Like, I was like, what the hell? I was like, and by the way, context, y'all, I was like maybe 16 or 17 at that time, and like looked like an absolute dweeb. And I was like, why in the world did y'all pick me out? It's like, this is wrong. Like, and they were not holding any bars. I mean, like, it was just absolutely degrading, like the kind of like pat down they gave me. And ever since then, I've had it in my mind. I'm like, what is up with the TSA? Why the hell did they do that? Like they don't do the wand thing. Like they didn't do the wand thing with me. They did it with the guy right in front of me, like when he didn't go through clean. And then with me, they're like, all right, we got this 16-year-old kid here. Let's give him the pat down treatment. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, come on. It's like, that's wrong. But anyways, we can see here the Ukrainians hitting the Russians. They actually hit a net in the front door. But it doesn't matter. The explosion still went through.
I don't know why every time you go through TSA, you always have such a hard time. Like, I don't know why. They always pick you, like, for the random screenings. They're always, like, pulling you off to the side every single time and stuff like that. You must just have a suspicious look or something.
Man,
with me, I must look super innocent or something. They're always like, he can't mean any harm. Let him on through. But then you come through and they're like, this dude's a criminal. Like, take him off to the side now.
Not when I went on my own. Like, I literally got, like, premium treatment on my own. Like, when I went on that trip to Seattle and back, dude, they were letting me through. Like, honestly, man, it was as easy as getting on a train. Like, I didn't even really go through the checkpoints. I just kind of, like, walked straight in and walked right out, like, no problems at all. But then when I go with y'all, then I'm a criminal or something. You know, it's like, what the hell's going on here? Why am I getting this treatment? But we did get to see a Russian tank getting burned by the ATESH unit of the partisans. Look at that. They cooked that thing quite nicely. But moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see that a Russian supply truck ran over a car today in Makivka quite significantly. It appears that the damage was pretty severe. We don't know if anyone was injured or killed in that crash, but we would assume that someone was certainly injured. Moving on from that, though, and into Pokrovsk, we also get to see some anti-tank mines blowing away the Russians' hopes and dreams. Oh! There he goes. They're gone. And the Russians
also,
are running.
Big shout out to Chris Rogers. He just put in a 50, by the way, and brought us to 3,541. Huge shout out to Chris for that generosity as well.
Holy smokes. A huge shout out to you, Chris Rogers, for that. And we also got to see some damage to Shevchenko. That's what Shevchenko looks like right now. It's mostly destroyed. But moving on from that, now to Shevchenko, and further on down the line towards Kurakovy, we also get to see the Ukrainians hitting a BMP-2. And we're going to be muting that Power Rangers music as the DJI Mavic goes flying off into the horizon to go find itself some fresh Russian targets.
Someone out here in the front of our little Enforcer HQ is honking vigorously. I'm not sure what's going on out there.
They're just letting us know that they support us.
They go, I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Bro, I love you, Enforcer, man. Oh, and thank you, Frostbite Productions, for the kind words. Sometimes I have to haul off on those people. It won't stop them. Like, it doesn't do anything to change the situation, but it makes it feel a little bit better to stand by my guns and be like, no, screw these people. We're gonna do what we want to do.
Also, by the way, Activista said that the TSA pre-check thing, apparently the fee is waived if you volunteer for certain organizations. I used to have TSA pre-check. I never applied for it. I never did anything to get it. They just like randomly gave it to me or something. And it was when I was like a few years younger than I am right now. And I don't know what happened to it. It just disappeared one day. I never applied for it or anything. So I'm not sure how I got it, but maybe it was something like that. Maybe that I got it. I have no idea.
They gave him a demo to see if he'd like it.
Yeah, this is randomly just like a TSA pre-check. I'm like, how come I'm the only one in the family that got this? I didn't even apply for it. That's kind of odd.
And also, this was a Russian prisoner captured near Robotny today. And we also got to see in another clip that they were hitting the Russian forces of the 110th Mechanized Brigade down near the area as well. You see them hitting a Russian mine-clearing tank right there. We see them hitting another one. And also Monster Lab said, stupid people don't understand satire. To add on to that a little bit, no, they do understand satire. It's just that they are so stuck up about their guy, whether it be like this is honestly the truth. Whether it was like Biden or Harris or Trump or anyone, they're so stuck up about their person that they like. They can't even hear jokes about them because that's offensive to them, and that's just so weak. Because I remember this back in the day. I remember when just to speak about this because this is kind of like the issue we're running into these days. I remember back like when about 2016 or so, the Republicans were all about, oh, we're not snowflakes. You know, the liberals are the snowflakes. They get offended by everything. We're not. And now, honestly, I can't tell a difference in between the two. Honestly, the Republicans whine and bitch enough that they're actually about to beat out the liberals in whining and bitching about jokes. Like, it's insane. Like, you cannot make a joke without those people just going feral at you for making a joke. There was actually a guy who used to be on this channel a pretty good bit, who went feral on us not once, not twice, but 3 times, publicly on the live chat twice, and then on Twitter DM for the 3rd time, and we finally just told the guy to get lost, because he was of a specific political leaning, and he could not take a single thing that sounded like a slight criticism of the guy he liked. Just could not take it. And one night, because I sat there and said, I don't really think the tariffs are going to turn out well. This might end up impacting the United States negatively. He then tweeted us on a DM and said, why are you so anti-American? Why do you hate America so much now? Like I spent 10 grand on making patriotic music of our own type because I hate America. So then Matthew just told him to get lost and kick rocks. So, you know, it's a never-ending thing with that stuff. But honestly, people are just so sensitive these days. It just absolutely kills jokes. Like, you cannot make a joke without just being mentally ready to take an onslaught of like 10 loudmouths every single time a joke's made that say that the joke sucks or that how dare you make fun of their people and they're gonna come get you. And someone just tried to say Republicans equal snowflakes. No, political people equal snowflakes. Liberals are as big of a snowflake as the Republicans are, and the Republicans are as big as snowflakes as the liberals are. If you're very political these days, it just comes with the territory that you're a sensitive, whiny person. But moving on from that, and on up into the area of Kyiv, it is time for us to get to the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky, because we actually did have one today, and it's long enough for me to have a water break, a union-mandated water break, mind you, so I actually get to have it today. So without further ado, here's a speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky on day 1145 of the war.
Дорогі українці, українки, Суми. Станом на цей час відомо про 34 убитих людини. Мої співчуття усім рідним та близьким. Це були 2 російські балістичні ракети. Перша влучила в будівлю, одна з будівель університету. Друга розірвалась фактично над вулицею. 117 людей були поранені, в тому числі діти, і, зокрема, дівчинка 25-го року народження. Лікарі, всі медичні працівники роблять максимум, щоб допомогти, щоб якнайбільше врятувати. Я вдячний всім службам, які за лічені хвилини були на місці, які почали рятувальні роботи. Удар прийшовся просто по центру міста у вербну неділю. Тільки абсолютно відбита сволота може робити таке. Сьогодні багато лідерів держав, дипломатів, багато звичайних людей з великим серцем висловили свої співчуття Україні, українцям. Засудили російський удар. Вже є заяви лідерів і голів урядів Франції, Британії, Німеччини, Данії, Фінляндії, Польщі, очільників Євросоюзу, держави Балтії, Литва, Латвія, Естонія. Я вдячний прем'єр-міністру Хорватії та Болгарії, президенції Молдови, прем'єр-міністру Нідерландів, президенту Словаччини, прем'єр-міністру Швеції. Я впевнений, буде підтримка інших багатьох лідерів. Я хотів би подякувати кожному і кожній, хто пам'ятає, що війни закінчуються, коли про злочини війни не забувають. І коли на агресора тиснуть достатньо, саме цього зараз немає. Цієї п'ятниці був рівно місяць, як Росія відкинула американську пропозицію повного і безумовного припинення вогню. Вони не бояться, і саме тому балістика. Саме тому щоночі під сотню ударних дронів, більшість з яких шахеди. І саме проти звичайних українських міст. Продовжуються і російські штурми на фронті, вони не перестають атакувати та не перестають поширювати ненависть в своїй державній пропаганді. Тільки тиском, тільки рішучими діями це можна змінити. Кожна російська балістика, кожна крилата ракета, всі російські шахеди, всі керовані бомби б'ють не тільки по наших людях, по наших громадах, але й по дипломатії, по політиці кожного, хто дійсно намагається все це завершити. Ми будемо робити все і надалі, щоб захистити людей і життя. Я дякую всім країнам і лідерам, які допомагають нам. І дуже важливі цього тижня були рішення щодо нових пакетів підтримки України після Рамштайну і на двосторонній основі. Україна обов'язково вистоїть, ми обов'язково дамо для нашої держави, для наших людей надійні гарантії безпеки. І обов'язково пам'ятаємо, лише разом ми достатньо сильні, щоб досягти своїх цілей. Я дякую всім, хто сьогодні з Сумами. Дякую всім, хто підтримує одне одного, хто робить все для захисту та зміцнення України, українців. Слава Україні!
And Hiram Slava.
And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 1145 of the news of the war in Ukraine. And that's moving us on into the second segment of the stream, where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. And boy, howdy, what a news segment it has been. So far, we have raised $3,541 in support of Revive Soldiers of Ukraine, an absolutely amazing number, $1,000 over the fundraiser goal. And not only that, we've been able to have a peak viewership tonight of 9,000 people, and 54,000 people have watched the stream so far. I've got to thank you all massively so much once again for enjoying the stream tonight and also supporting that fundraiser massively, because y'all are continuing to help out and supporting American and Western interests around the globe. And not only that, we hope that y'all been able to hear a good amount of news here so far today. Of course, we're going to be moving on to the second question segment, which means that we will be talking to all of y'all, and the news segment has ended. If you come in here asking where the news was, please be kind and rewind, but just go watch the beginning 2 hours, because I have absolutely yapped my mouth off to make sure that you have the best news show. It's just that unfortunately it might not be running at the time you click on the stream, which might be right now. I also once again want to remind everyone that we will not be running streams on this upcoming Saturday and on up into the Tuesday after this upcoming one. We will be gone traveling the United States of America during that time, trying to find our third headquarters to be able to ensure that there is a continuous running of our streams once the third Enforcer HQ has to be moved into once the time Enforcer HQ 2.0 begins to end and round out, which should be coming up towards the latter end of this year. Nevertheless, I do thank you all so much for your understanding and cooperation, and I thank you for choosing the Enforcer for your news every single day. And so with that, Matthew, please take it away and tell us the top donors that we've had in between the last question segment and this one.
All right, so it is time for the final question segment of the night, of course, and we have no more polls to address, so sadly, we will move on from that. We have no more polls, sadly. We do love the polls very much, but we're fresh out. And we're now moving on to our live chat questions of the night, and we have very good ones tonight to cover during our last question segment, so let's jump right into it. And up first, we have our Morse code decoders of the stream. Tonight, we had Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Kevin J., Paul Schultz, David Millsaps, Her Royal Fluffiness, Arable Garbo, Johnny Dog, and Norm Pritchett. They said, the Morse says, when the price of the oil is dropping, the Putin is bouncing his head off the desk. LLT LSA.
And and that is the sound of money. And y'all got that dead on the nail. That is the Morse code message of the night. I have to congratulate y'all once again massively for getting that correct on the 1,145th day of the war and continuing to get that correct time and time again. The Elite Spring Army Morse code deciphering unit, otherwise known as the Elite Spring Army Signal Corps, the LSASC, has been continuously getting the Morse code message correct for 1,000 days and well over 1,100 days without a guarantee. Well, with a guarantee. I don't know why, what the hell I'm saying anymore. I'm so sleepy. Nevertheless, I do congratulate y'all on getting that correct time and time again, because if it wasn't for folks like y'all, we wouldn't be able to see the Morse code deciphering excellence of the Elite Spring Army Signal Corps in action, and we would not be able to know what the Morse code message in the intro during the 10-minute countdown that happens every single day says every single night. And so a huge thank you to you so much once again, and I hope that does address that incredibly well. And it is time for us to move on to those next questions, as someone in the chat has said, buy a house already, LOL. Oh, that's such a cute idea. Buy a house. Buy a house. I would love to buy a house if the houses were freaking affordable. We can hardly even afford rent, much less a house. We would love to have a house. We would love to buy one, and we love to live in one. Problem is, they're so freaking expensive. And no matter where you look in America, unless you're wanting to live in the literal hood, they are expensive. They are like $500,000 to $800,000 starting off, and we do not make that kind of money on this channel to actually afford that kind of a thing. So we are forced into renting. Like the peasants of old, we just simply do not make enough coin to actually have a house. We live in rentals instead, because that's great. And we love to know that there's companies out there buying up single and dual income family houses that could be lived in, and they don't let anyone live in them, so that way they can jack up the prices of the other houses and also jack up the price of rent. We love to know that that's happening. We love to know that absolutely nothing's being done by anyone to fix that. And it's just a wonderful thing. We would buy a house if we could. And also all my frustration in that statement is all acted out, but that's actually the reality of it, is that we cannot afford a house because they're just so expensive. And that's actually sad, because, you know, we don't make an insanely high amount on this channel, but we don't make an incredibly small amount either. And even still, houses are just completely a fantasy to us as far as the cost. They are just too expensive no matter where we look. We could look in Florida, Texas, Washington State, Maine, Nebraska, Colorado. They're all too expensive. Everywhere in the country, the houses are insanely expensive these days. A minimum starting home, base price, maybe $700,000 in most places. Be really lucky if you find anything that's close to $500,000. And it's a shame because you know, our parents and everyone else's parents always tell them, oh, it's just easy, just go out and get one, like they're, you know, like a Happy Meal or something. But they don't cost Happy Meal prices these days. They cost like Louis Vuitton prices for a house, and it's just impossible. So you're forced into renting, and then the rent isn't really even cheap either, because to get like no square footage, like you can live in like a Cracker Box equivalent kind of square footage where it's like 1,000 square feet. It could be like thousands of dollars a month. So you know, it's a very kind of a tough economic situation out there with that. And it's not that it's not the thing that they're just becoming expensive. They're becoming expensive because the amount of supply equal to the demand is being artificially inflated, because large investment firms are buying out swaths of neighborhoods and suburbs filled with single income houses, and they're not letting them be sold to a private homeowner. They're instead forcing you to rent them, which means that the price of all the other houses on the market, because there's a smaller amount of supply for houses to own instead of to rent, are smaller. The prices go up on those, and that also means that these companies get to pretty much price fix the rent to whatever they want it to be, usually meaning that the price of rent is insanely high. So that is incredibly aggravating to know that that's what's going on. And when that's ever brought up, every single person says, you know, not getting political here, but the last guy said that he was going to fix that, and this guy said he was going to fix it, and the last guy didn't fix it, and this guy doesn't look like he's wanting to fix it. So it looks like the enforcers are going to the hood. We're going to create a movie about it. We're going to call it we're going to call the movie "The Enforcers Go to the Hood," and it's going to be like a picture of like us wearing like we're going to be holding Glocks near to like a car with like giant rims, and we're going to be, you know, like where we're going to have like cigars and stuff. It's going to be crazy, but it's going to be a movie. We're going to make it a premiere. And it's going to just literally be like a show of our lives at that point, because that's really the only place we'll be able to afford. And also, by the way, I'm saying this. And I'm not saying this is like a frustration of like, y'all need to give us more money. No. Don't take it as that as all. It like, to be entirely honest with y'all, it would not matter if every single one of y'all gave us your life savings. We just never would be able to afford a house even still. It's that bad. So don't take it that way. Like, don't take it as like we're complaining that people aren't supporting the channel enough. Y'all support the channel insanely in super chats and every other way on Patreon and stuff. And we thank y'all massively for that. And we can never ask for more. Honestly, we would be, we are humbled to know that y'all support the channel that massively. The problem is that the housing situation is just insane. Nobody, especially in our generation that does not have a house, will never have a house right now unless if something drastically changes in the real estate world. So with that, I hope that addresses that well. At least the best I can, at least about just going and buying a house, lol, because it's not that easy, lol. But anyways, Martin Hickey said the enforcers do Bessemer. Oh my god, dude. The enforcers go to Bessemer? Bro, that would be a movie. That would be a movie, man. That would be the equivalent of Falling Down in the modern day, but like real life.
Honestly, it would. But you know, where we used to live, like our neighborhood wasn't in the hood, but if you drove out of our neighborhood, you were straight up in the hood already. Like, it was that dangerous. Every time I went to go get gas, it was sketchy. I almost got carjacked. Some dude like tried to walk up and take my car from me and stuff like that. Tried to take the Lotta. That's freaking crazy. Someone tried to bike jack me with my motorcycle one time. Let's see here. Multiple times, had a lot of run-ins. Some dude got his throat slit like right down the way from me.
And
like
he's
when
got
I was
his
trying to go.
slit.
Yeah, his arm, or he bled out there on the sidewalk. Just all kinds of stuff. Like, we actually did live in the hood. Montgomery is a humongous, dangerous place, like very dangerous. So it's understated how dangerous Montgomery is. It's actually, in my opinion, it felt more dangerous than Birmingham. Although Birmingham technically ranks higher on the stats, Montgomery just felt dangerous. Like, when you drove around there, you just felt like hostility in the area. It was really bad.
Oh my god, dude, the crime rate's insane. Hold up, let me let's see. It's no way. They're saying that the property and violent crime rates were lower than national averages in Montgomery, Alabama. That is a crock of lies. It is dangerous as hell in Alabama, especially in Montgomery. Let's see here. So the total crime index, according to Security Gauge, is 8. With 100 being the safest.
Oh my god! Honestly, that's not what I was expecting to see. I thought it was going to be higher than that, but actually, that reflects exactly what I'm saying. So the stats actually back me up this time.
A single-digit safety rating from Security Gauge is pretty often unheard of, honestly. Like, let's see. So Alabama's a 4, which is pretty close to the national median. Montgomery's at 5.7. And violent crimes, by the way, per 1,000 residents. Let's see. Montgomery, well, most of it's unreported.
Yeah, that's not surprising, actually.
Yeah.
You know, the Montgomery, like law enforcement agencies were having a pretty bad problem. Like, I think there was something, I can't remember the exact story, so I'm not going to say, but there was something fishy going on with the law enforcement at Montgomery, and they've been trying to get a grip on the crime there for ages, and they can't quite get a grip on it. Birmingham has the same kind of problem going on as well. It's just really bad management that's not really taking care of the policing issue. Some people believe it's better to have the police not be overly aggressive, and some people think it's better to have them hyper aggressive with everybody. And there's no in between, so it's just like all over the place, and the crime just keeps running rampant. Oh, look, that's a 5. Where's this? Chicago?
Chicago is a 5. Montgomery is an 8. So what do they call Birmingham, Alabama? Then, like downtown Birmingham. What is Birmingham, Alabama, according to them? All right. So what is it? Oh, wait, I forgot. I have to click on the crime thing. What is it? A 1!
Oh, my God. It's a 1,
my God,
bro.
it's a
like
1!
the worst rating possible. It's the lowest possible.
Oh, my God. It's worse. Dude, honestly, I could see that, though. Driving through the area we drove through not too long ago, I could see that without like, question. So just to let y'all know right now, just because, you know, people don't get a perspective of what it really is like where we live, we moved from Montgomery to here because this is like where we are in the city is better like than Montgomery, but the city it's attached to in name is the worst city in America for crime, apparently. It's a number 1 out of 100, with 100
It's
being
worse
the
than
safest.
Chicago.
Yeah, it's worse than Chicago by like...
What about Detroit?
Whoa, I mean, don't ask about Detroit. Let's go check out the crime. All right, folks. We gotta get the lowdown here. A 1. We're as dangerous as Detroit. We're as dangerous as Detroit.
I mean, honestly, somebody said, oof, you're basically living in a war zone. Honestly, so, but pull up our actual city. Pull up Hoover, Alabama. We live in the suburbs of Birmingham. We don't live like in the middle of like the war zone necessarily. So let's see what it is in Hoover. It should be much higher. Like 30, it should be. Yeah. Oh, 30. That's actually not as high as I thought it was going to be, actually. I thought it was going to be like 50 or 60. I will say Hoover is generally safe. But that number does not indicate that, though. It indicates it's a little higher.
Well, the violent crimes and the property crimes are actually lower than national medians by significant margins.
Huh? Well, that's kind of weird. So let's think of a place that we think is safe, and let's see what the score is going to be. What's a generally safe place? What would you say, like Salt Lake City, Utah, or something?
Jackson.
Like,
what about Seattle? Let's check it out.
That map's looking pretty promising.
That map's looking interesting. A 1?
Oh my God, a 1. Is that for? I mean, what's wow, man, Seattle's dangerous. Oh my God,
damn,
bro, that's bad,
dude. I was wandering around in this place. Hold up.
Dang, that's worse than Montgomery.
Hold up, what's Dallas? Dallas, Texas. What is this? It's a 3.
3, man. What is this website you're looking at?
Honestly, I'm starting to doubt this website because, like, Dallas and Seattle were very nice. Like,
punch in Salt Lake City, because I know Salt Lake City is like one of the safest places, like, I think, in America. So let's see what that is.
Oh,
that's, man, toward the mountains, rough.
Oh my God, bro, it's a 1. This website's
I'm not sure about this rating.
This website's
I'm
full
not
of
sure
crap.
about it. Yeah,
because it's calling everything a 1. Like, oh my God. Bro, this place is making it sound like people are getting capped and so, bro, dude, in Salt Lake City, dude, they have like the Mormons going around doing drive-bys, I guess. It's like, what the how in the world do they have this kind of a violent crime rate? Like, honestly, like, Salt Lake City is actually a very safe place. So for them to be saying it's this bad where it's a 1, honestly, man, this whole thing seems skewed because every single city is like next to being a 1.
Let's see here. I'm trying to pull up the FBI stats, like the criminal like stats here. Let's see here.
Well, someone said, what about Boston? Let's go check what this website says about Boston.
Yeah, see what Boston's number is, and let me tell you what the dangerous places look like.
It's a 12.
Oh, wow. That's higher than the other one. But let's see here. The most dangerous places in the U.S. this year is Memphis, Tennessee. I can see that. Memphis is very dangerous. St. Louis, 2nd. Detroit is 3rd. Birmingham, Alabama is number 4. Little Rock is number 5. New Orleans, number 6. Cleveland, number 7. Kansas City, Missouri. Myrtle Beach, Denver. Minneapolis, Milwaukee. Salt Lake City is number 13. Let's see. Where is Seattle on this list, by the way? Seattle is number 21, most dangerous.
Wow.
Where's Dallas? Oh, Dallas isn't even on the list, so Dallas must be pretty safe compared to the other ones.
So what do you pull up? The FBI's FBI?
No, I pulled up. I punched in most dangerous places in the U.S. 2025 and punched in U.S. News Real Estate is what it was.
In U.S. 2025. All right. So, and this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a gander. Man, honestly, Memphis, Tennessee being the most dangerous place I could see. St. Louis, honestly, man, like having been through St. Louis once, and we saw St. Louis from I-70. I'm honestly shocked that it's only number 2. I feel like St. Louis ought to be like an honorary number 1 every year with how it looked. It was bad. Detroit, yeah. Birmingham, Alabama, number 4. Bro, and they put in that picture of that devil goat at 5 points, man. Like, it's like our picture. They put that in.
What even is that, by the way? Like, for the people, I know there's people in the live chat that live in Birmingham. So y'all tell me, what is the 5-point statue supposed to be? Because I pointed out to Andrew yesterday. I was like, is that a devil statue or something over there? Like some devil worshiping thing or something? Like, look at the statue. It's like some devilish looking goat thing. I was like, what the hell is that?
What is
that? I've never even noticed that until like the other day. I was like, what is that weird statue doing over there? That's creepy as hell.
The Storyteller by Frank Fleming. Honestly, this thing looks like the devil. Like, I'm just going to be honest. Look at that.
Yeah, I saw it. That was creepy as hell when I saw it. I was like, that's the most like unnerving looking thing.
Dude, you know what this statue is called? The Storyteller?
He's lying.
No, that was a drive-by on 3rd and 19th. Like, that's it. It was a nasty one. Like,
Man, his devil statues witnessed some real like devilish activities going on around here too.
bro, dude, this thing's saying, and there were 5 real ones that were killed down there. This rab's like, oh, yo, real shit? Like, it's just like, bro, and then that capybara back there in the background, man. Like, honestly, it's creepy as hell. And 5 Points is a interesting spot. You can see the burnouts on satellite in the middle of 5 Points, actually, right there.
Yeah, and also someone says in front of a church. Surely the church didn't put that up, because that does not look like a very Christianly thing to put up. That looks very opposite of that. So I'm not sure who put that statue up, but it's quite bad,
And
especially in front of a church.
This church is actually very nicely made. Like, I'd say out of all the churches in Alabama, this is actually pretty high quality, at least in terms of like the exterior architecture of it. So to have a statue in front of it like that's a little interesting. But let me see if I can drop y'all down in 5 Points. Can we drop y'all down in 5 Points? Yeah, this is 5 Points. This is what 5 Points. You see the burnouts. Yeah, this is what there was a shootout. Actually, a shooting, the one that made national news. It happened right down there. There was a load of people trying to get into like a nightclub here, and they just drove by and just fired into the line trying to hit a guy, and I think they ended up hitting and killing 3 other people. But yeah, crazy thing. But that's kind of normal for downtown Birmingham. I mean, there's like murders that happen in downtown Birmingham pretty often, really. So we only go down there whenever we need to, which is never. So we never really go into downtown Birmingham. But once upon a time, we did go to UAB. And that was, like at the very beginning of us running this channel, we were going to UAB like the whole first year of running the show. So we would go down there, and I almost got like jumped one time getting out of my car. I had to get some quarters, so I leaned back in to get some quarters, and this guy just showed up out of the blue, and he's like, "Hey man, you got some money on you?" And I was like, "Nah, dude." He was like, "Got like a card?" I was like, "Nah, dude." He's like, "You got anything?" I was like, "Nah, man." I was like, "I got nothing." Like, shit. I was like, yeah, fortunate, I suppose. Good luck robbing me next time. And then he just wandered off. So put the coins in the machine, and then I went to school. But it was a very shady place. One time there was a story that I heard from another student, because we didn't live on campus. We lived off campus in Enforcer HQ. There was a student that told me a story, Matthew, that apparently in one of the parking decks, some guy went through and busted out the windows of 13 cars there. And out of those cars, he stole 7 firearms that were never found. Yeah, never found. Stole 7 firearms out of the students' cars. Honestly, I don't know why they have firearms in their cars on campus. I thought that wasn't allowed. But apparently, the 7 students were like, "Hey, my gun's been stolen out of my car," and the police never found the guns. So apparently, there's just a load of probably like pistols from college kids that have been stolen there, just floating around Birmingham out there.
Well, I didn't know they were strapped up like that.
Man, I didn't know they were strapped up like that either, man. I was like, bro, everyone around here's got a gat? I was like, y'all ain't even from the state. It's like, why do y'all got them? And like, they just had them. It was kind of like a little interesting. But let's see. What else? You were saying, let's see, Minneapolis.
Also, by the way, this is the most dangerous places list right here you're looking at. But I'm seeing I think this is by violent crime, by the way, on that list you're looking at. For property crimes, Washington State's got some horrific property crime levels going on there. Like, they're making the list for Kent. Also, that other city that borders the other state with Washington, I can't remember what that one is. Well, Spokane. No, Spokane has some horrible property crimes. Kent has really bad property crimes. And also Seattle as well. Like, property crimes and thefts like crazy.
Huh, that's interesting. But you know what's even more interesting on this list, Matthew, is that Salt Lake City is more unsafe than Portland, Oregon. You wouldn't expect that one, would you?
No, I wouldn't have expected that, honestly.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. Like, the crime rates in these places that we're looking are higher than I expected. Florida's not really making the list on those, I noticed. Like, I'm not seeing Florida nor Texas anywhere on these lists.
Yeah, dude, you just got to worry in Florida about the Florida man, like asking you, can you revive his puppy? And then you go, what? And then he rips your spine out and then beats you with it. Like, like you got to deal with a Florida man. That's a whole thing that I'm not prepared to deal with, man.
Maybe so. I'll be honest with you, though. I was expecting Dallas. I think Houston is a hellhole when it comes to like crime, but I was expecting some crimes in Dallas, but I really didn't see that anywhere on any list. So that's kind of surprising.
Let's take a look. Let's go to this website again. I'm sure it's a 1. It's a 3.
Yeah, I don't buy that.
Yeah, I don't buy that website. Let's see here. No, thank you. How safe is... Oh, bro, look, they had a picture. Yeah, there it is with that dart thing, you know, the little light rail that they have. Well, it's higher than the national rate in 2022. Its rate of property crime was higher than the national rate.
It looks like it's right in the middle, according to the crime index.
Yeah, it does. But it's pretty on up there, Matthew. It's on up there near to Phoenix, Arizona, and San Antonio. So it's
What is
getting...
this? What's this site rate Seattle?
I don't know. That's a good question. Can we pull that up here? Like, is there a way to just pull it up on their website? It doesn't appear that there is.
Press the search bar and type in Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle crime. Seattle crime, yeah. Seattle crime. Let's take a gander.
Oh, there it is. First one.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, it looks like
It's higher than Dallas by a lot.
Well, I mean, in violent crime, not by much. In property crime, it is a lot. Like, honestly, that's a lot of property crime. So the violent crimes, let's go back and look at Dallas. So the violent crimes are almost like par on par with each other, really. Like, they're like within like spitting distance. But the property crime is a good bit more, like 20 to 25% more. But then again...
Yeah, a lot of thieving going on.
But then again, man, if we were looking at any of these places hypothetically for Enforcer 3.0, we wouldn't be living in the Seattle area. We would be living outside of the area. And also with Dallas, it would be outside of the area.
But the problem is, though, if you want to go into Seattle, I would assume that most of that thievery is happening with people busting in people's cars. That's my guess. It's probably not breaking and entering, although I'm sure that's happening, obviously. But it's probably most likely smash and grabs out of cars. That's what's been hitting the news. Is California's having a lot of smash and grabs. So is Washington as well. So that's probably why the thieving is so high. Because I think Seattle's the place that has that open air market where they're reselling stolen goods on the street.
Seattle? I didn't see that.
Yeah, I've seen some guy on YouTube. He's done a documentary on it. There's like some like open air like marketplaces like Seattle. There's cities in California that has it. Oh, look, Miami's like safe as hell.
Man, Miami is pretty safe, actually. You wouldn't expect that with like Miami being like a party city kind of a thing. You wouldn't expect the crime rate to be low like that. But I guess you got to keep it low for business, you know. But interesting. That's very interesting. Miami's got them beat for crime. But then again, they also got them beat for prices. Like, I think Miami's going to be the most expensive of the three, without a doubt, without a doot. But anyways, let's see here. And someone said, that's because Washington State is more prosperous than other states that have nothing to steal. Yeah, I guess it's true. I mean, I guess if you have like nicer things, people are going to steal a little bit more. But then again, you think that they crack down on that, you know, maybe like, you know, cut off some hands or something. But anyways, someone's going to go, what? You know, it's like, no, I don't mean that for real. That was more of a figure of speech. But anyways, with that, Matthew, I understand that we do have some questions. We have gotten like almost no questions. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so our first question here goes to, let's see, this one goes to JR Does Stuff. He says, did you see the 60 Minutes interview with Zelensky? It came out a few hours ago.
I did not, because I would have been busy working during that time, so unfortunately, no. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Rebellion, who says, didn't we do this to Japan before World War II, like we're doing to China with the trade?
Yeah, pretty much. It's almost like exactly what we did to him. So, you know, coincidence? Maybe, or I think not, you know, who knows? But yes, to answer that question, it's pretty much almost the same thing we did to Japan before World War II. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. We're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to AF Kaplan, who says, is it known how many tarriffs missiles Germany has sent to Ukraine or will send to Ukraine?
It's unknown at the moment, and it's more so of like a theory, which, you know, leads me to believe that it might just stay a theory, a game theory, because the Germans love to say that they're sending them. They've done it in the past under Schultz, and then they never do. So it's a bit up in the air right now as to how that really will go, at least in my opinion. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to John's Movie Bar, who says, what happened to the shot down F-16, and was it recovered by the Russians, and is there anything worth reverse engineering, even for that 40-plus-year-old plane?
It was shot down over the Ukrainian front lines. All the debris fell inside of Ukraine, so there's nothing for the Russians to get a hold of and reverse engineer, so we don't even have to worry about that. We are A-OK. The whole thing was recovered by the Ukrainians. So with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Artelius, who says, Russia bought a lot of gold and paid off their debts for years before the invasion. And do they still have the gold, or is it gone?
I have a feeling if they paid off their debt with the gold, it's probably gone, because they would have used it to pay off the debt. But Russia had a national debt before the war. Like, Russian national debt per year. Like, everyone runs in debt. No country ever does not have debt. So let's see. Oh yeah, that's 2019 to 2029. I always hate this website because we're going to reject those optional cookies. Oh, yes, we need an account now. So we're just going to leave that and go over here, hopefully to some graphs. And let's see. That's through 2023. That's through the whole war thing. But let's see here. This is the percent of GDP debt. And as you can see, they never completely paid off their debt. They got down from 70% of their national GDP in debt to 12%, which is a 5% change, which is an okay amount, but it's not really a lot. And as they've continued on, the national debts remain relatively stable. So I would say that the goal is probably not there anymore if they used it to pay off their national debt, but they really didn't even pay off a lot of it in retrospect because the 12% of the national GDP was accounted for in debt, so not really paying it off. More so like they kind of like paid a little bit of it off. But every country's in debt. Like, people don't get that. People in America think that a country runs like a person, like they got to pay off their debts, or the debt collector comes and you get on an episode of Repo Man where your car's towed. But on a national level, everyone always runs in debt, and debt's honestly nothing really to worry about too much. And someone's about to say, but it is when you got $40 freaking trillion. Oh, nothing. No, it's not. No, it's not. Like, it's always been like that. Calm down. It's nothing to worry about. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. And also, you know, something that's interesting, folks, I just want to point this out because I like using common sense. I don't really work off of those like little party lines that they tell y'all that like some people feel smart repeating back to me. If the national debt was actually something that was concerning enough that it needed to actually be paid off, they've been saying that our entire lives. Like, I've been alive, you know, my entire life. Obviously, call me Captain Obvious. And the entire time I've heard the national debt needs to be repaid, or the boogeyman's going to come and they're going to suckle on our toes or something. It's something ridiculous. So I've been hearing that my whole life, and nobody's actually even gotten close to repaying the debt. If anything, we're going into more debt, and honestly, nothing's changed. So if it was that bad that the boogeyman was going to come and suckle on our toes, like Harvey Weinstein, why in the world has it not happened yet? And I've been alive for 23 years, and that's what they've been saying for 23 whole years. They were saying that back when Dewey was running against FDR in 1940. They were going, look at the national debt. It's running out of control. They're going to come and eat our toes. And it never happened. Never happened once. So that's why I say the national debt thing isn't even that important. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
So this one goes to Dalton LMAO. Who says, what, you know, huh?
Oh,
say
go
what?
ahead. I said LMAO, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. But they said, what do y'all think is going to happen between Iran and the United States? And thanks, y'all. Honestly, I would say this. At first, I thought we were going to bomb the hell out of Iran, which was probably the best way to deal with them, because they're saying death to America. So when someone says that, I generally say maybe we should teach them a lesson, because it's not a good thing to say about a country that wishes no harm on Iran, except for wishes them prosperity, as long as they don't try to kill us. So I would say what's probably going to happen is there's going to be some appeasement going on. That's probably what's going to happen based on what we're currently seeing. There's always the threat of an invasion happening, and it looked very likely to happen just a couple of weeks ago, but now it's looking like the stalling tactics are taking hold. So I'll be curious to see how that ends. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd say I think we ought to teach the Iranians a lesson. I don't think we should talk to them. They are obviously a hostile country. They cannot be trusted. They support terrorist forces throughout the world, and especially in the Middle East. I think that we ought to deal with them, especially because they threaten death to us every single day. That would be my take on it. But I do hope that addresses that well, and I think it wants to give her support and help this channel to keep on running. And with that, it is time for us to move on to the next one. And also, Bill Blake said, we don't need to pay off the debt. We just need to get it below 90% of GDP. Let me go pull up the GDP, well, actually the debt clock really quickly, and show you something interesting here of other countries that have debts way larger than ours relative to their size. Let me go find that really quickly. We should be able to find it somewhere on here, Oh, okay. Where is it? Come on, they had a national one. What is that? Oh, it just brings you to their Twitter. Okay. Bless me.
Whoa,
Dang.
bless you.
Whoa.
Bless you.
Where the hell is the open? Okay.
Oh, look, they added a future tariff tax revenue thing.
Where is that?
It's on the right, the third box on the right, second row.
That's it?
659 trillion, is that?
That is $659
Billion.
billion. That's not
Okay,
not really a lot.
I mean, that's a pretty good bill. I mean, it's getting close to $1 trillion, but
I
it's
mean,
not
wiping out-
racking up very quick.
But we're wiping out trillions of dollars of market value for a $650 $650 billion the incentive. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. We're burning more money than we're getting from that.
What a stupid question. Who are you with?
Who are you with? You're asking the questions that really count. You're a stupid idiot. But let me show you all the world debt clocks, because it's right over here. And this is the debt to GDP ratio. It's 100%. China is at 85%. Germany is at 73%. And if you thought we had it bad, Japan's at almost 300% of their GDP is in national debt. So they're fine, by the way. Japan is fine, and they're at 300%. So if they can manage that, I think we can manage it being over 100. Like, that'll be totally fine. Please tack on more to the plate, please. 92%. That's India. 113% is the UK. 123% is France. 159% is Italy. 94% is Brazil. Canada has 117%. Argentina has 93%. Australia has 60%. Belgium 116%. Greece at 200%. There's reasons for that. And let's skip forward to another one that's over 100%. Portugal's at 128%. Spain's at 124%. And then some of these actually have very low debt to GDP ratios, but that might just be due to different kinds of fiscal spending patterns. But nevertheless, debt to GDP ratios have absolutely nothing to do with a country's success, because China is near to 85% of their national GDP being in, their debt being 85% worth of their GDP nationally, and they are still doing all right. You know, they're not doing great. And Japan's at almost 300%, and they're doing relatively fine. So I think we'd be okay if we continue to just take on debt, because, you know, historically, everyone's taking on debt. You can see that right here. No one's numbers are shrinking. They're only climbing. So I hope that does address that well. And once again, everyone, remember, the money's fake. We don't back it up with anything anymore. So, like, the crazy thing is that you can literally just print the money, and as long as people have faith it's worth something, it's worth something. How does that work? I still really don't know, but that actually is how it works. Trust me on that one. That actually is what it is. But anyways,
that's because we're the reserve currency of the world, and that's why the BRICS dollar was such a big deal for a while, and that's why the threats came out of the United States. If that happens, they're going to come down hard on them, because if the U.S. dollar is replaced as the reserve currency with a different currency, that would actually threaten us economically quite badly, because then at that point, everybody would be trading in a different currency. So the fake, non-backed up U.S. dollar would then have a bit of a crisis.
That's why the petrodollar's coming down. Like, the petrodollar's coming down. But anyways, with that, it's time for us to move on to the third to last question of the night.
Also, by the way, let's do a small rabbit hole real quick. People were talking about Greece is broke. Greece is broke, but Greece is actually beautiful. Like, I was watching a video today of some guy riding a motorcycle that I was curious about, and he was riding around the coast of Greece. Like, pull up to the coast, like in Greece. It is actually very, very nice on the coast.
Yeah, let's go to the coast, because whatever that was kind of scary. But let's take a look at the
Go
coast.
around the Athens area of the coast and see how that looks.
Oh, Athens. Yeah, I had to make sure that Athens was right there. I didn't want to get it wrong, and the people go, "You idiot." So here we go. Ooh la la. You know what? We need to get on the street views, because I keep getting dropped off in the most random locations. So how about here?
Put it down there. Yeah, right there. That's good.
Bro,
I think it's what the guy was riding earlier, honestly.
That dirt be dirt, and dude, look at that. That's actually really, really nice. You know, it's kind of dry down here, though. Kind of dry looking, you know? Very arid kind of a landscape.
It is kind of arid, I will say.
It's very dry. Kind of reminds me, man, of like Southern California near to LA, really.
You know, this is called the decentralized administration region.
Well, why is that?
That's just what it says at the top.
That's a very interesting. Decentralized, they say. That seems inefficient. They need to centralize the power and create a dictator, so that way they can have efficiency, and the groceries will be cheap. But let's take a look at Athens. The city of Athens is Greek flags.
You know, they have some really, really bad groups in Greece, like some really bad, like, terrorist groups that hang out here. We actually have field officers that come from the United States and go here to the embassy, and they will do some work here in Greece to sort of like monitor those groups. You'd be surprised how like militant some of those groups are. There's like some groups that are named after a day of the month that are operating in Greece, which are quite horrendous actually. That are responsible for some car bombings and things like that.
Well, Greece is considered one of the most dangerous places for a diplomatic posting for the United States. Did you know that?
I did know that.
Yeah, it's a very interesting fact, you see. But beyond that, where is Mount Olympus? Where is Mount Olympus? Where is it? Is it Mount Parnassus? No, it's not. Look at that, though. That's a mountain. It's a whole mountain right there. That guy looked like he was about to sneeze. But, wow. A mountain.
Oh, that's nice. That is nice. Also, by the way, not to jump off the Greece topic real quick, but I saw James in the live chat say Frisco, Texas, rated safe city in Texas, north of Dallas. Also, best school system. I've been to Frisco. It is extremely nice. I liked it a lot. We jumped down to like part of Legacy, which is below Frisco before, and it didn't look so great on Google Street Maps. This really doesn't look too great on Street Maps either. But in real life, though, it's like super clean and super nice here. Like I was actually very impressed with it. Nothing super like exciting going on here, I will say, but just for like a nice American city, I thought it was pretty decent.
So Frisco actually got its name because of the St. Louis San Francisco Railway. Frisco lines, that's what it's called. Pretty cool. And their reporting marking was SLSF. But when you mix the two together, St. Louis and San Francisco, you get Frisco for Francisco, and it's really confusing, honestly. I really don't know how they got the whole Frisco thing, but I always thought it was a blend of the two, and now that I'm saying that, that actually sounds stupid. But beyond that, they actually were a significant railroad in the area, and crazily enough, Matthew, you wouldn't believe it, they actually ran all the way to Birmingham, Alabama. Crazy, right? Crazy. So you could actually get on the Frisco system from Birmingham. Let me see here if I can show you. Yeah, here we go. The Sunnyland. That's actually at Birmingham Union Station.
That's pretty neat. I like that.
Yeah, pretty cool, pretty cool. The Frisco was a interesting railroad. Also, this is like the most depressing looking advertising poster I've ever seen.
What are those kids doing?
Honestly, man, this looks like a poster from like a horror movie. Like this kid died of polio and this girl died of cholera and they're haunting you in your house. Like that's what that looks like. This is honestly not a great advertising pitch. No wonder they went under. I think they merged later on into what would become the Union Pacific, if I'm correct. Let's see. Where in the world does it talk about that? Where in the world does it talk about that? It's got to talk about that somewhere, right? Like talk about its limited history. Yeah, see, the city of Frisco, Texas was named after the railroad and uses the former railroad's logo as its own logo. The logo is modeled after a stretched out raccoon skin, given rise to the Frisco High School's mascot, the Fighting Raccoons.
Huh, interesting.
I actually didn't know that, and honestly, that's a very stylized version of a stretched-out raccoon skin, honestly. I never even saw that once. Every time I've looked at that logo, I've never thought of, like, a stretched-out raccoon skin. That's honestly a stretch. Like, no pun intended.
I thought maybe it was a pelt.
Honestly, man, I just thought it was a really cool design. Like, kind of like the L&N, which is my favorite railroad, by the way, folks. They like have nothing on it on the internet. The Louisville and Nashville Railroad. There we go. So this is their logo, which was designed in like the 1870s, late 1870s, I think. Honestly, this is striking to me. The red and the yellow really speaks to me. It's like McDonald's, and I like that. Like it's nice. The colors are good, and it looks good on the side of a locomotive. Like, have you all seen the side of a locomotive with L&N? Honestly, that's not a really good example because this was like at the end of life for the L&N before they merged with like everyone else to create the Seaboard system. But it looked good. I can promise you all that it looked good when it actually was painted fresh. And I like that railroad. I like it a lot. But yeah, the Frisco is also pretty neat too. There's a lot of neat railroads around here. You know, there's a lot of neat railroads. But anyways. With that, I hope we addressed that well. I don't even know what we were addressing, but I do hope it addressed it well. And with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so who was the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And actually, we had two more to get to, but this one goes to Quantum Fighter, who said, what kind of bike were you going to get, Matt? Honestly, I'm not really sure which bike I'm trying to get, to be honest with you. I'm sort of like on the fence about it. I'm really not even sure if I'm actually going to get a bike. Obviously, would like to get one, but there's other considerations I got to really like be responsible and take into effect first, like, for example, student loans and things like that. So I'm not even sure if it's really going to happen, but I can at least dream about it, right? So I was looking at maybe a secondhand Yamaha FZ09. which is a street naked bike. It's a I believe a 3-cylinder. Sounds pretty smooth. Sounds very nice. It's very reminiscent of the Triumph Speed Triple. Has the same kind of sound to it. This is an older one right here. It's a 2017. But it's generally the right look. If you punch in a new one, though, they look a little bit more modern than that. Like if you punch in like a 2025, if I can say it. I think they call it MT09 now, but that'll work.
I'll pull it up for you and show it to you, boss. Here you go.
There it is. Look at that. I don't like that color on the wheels, by the way. That's not really my thing. But the dark blue one, go click on that one. Like the dark blue, black one right there in the middle.
This one?
Yeah, that one. That looks pretty sharp right there. I like that. That's the SP version of it. And these aren't too bad, like for motorcycle prices. I think new they're going for like 12,000, which is pretty steep. But used you can find them for I think 8 or 9, which is not too bad for the size of the motorcycle it is. So not too bad. But if I could get any bike I wanted, honestly, and price was not an issue, I would probably go for a Ducati. But the Ducati maintenance is so expensive. I just can't really justify that. The Ducati maintenance is pretty pricey, but I was looking at the new Ducati like Supermoto they just came out with called a 698 RVE, I believe it's called, the mono. There it is, the second one. Yeah, this thing right here is pretty intriguing to me. It's like a Supermoto dirt bike style thing. Not super powerful. It's the most powerful single cylinder motorcycle that's on the market right now. I think it makes like 77 horsepower at the peak RPM, but it's got good torque. It's people say it's pretty fun. I've never ridden one quite like this. Look at that dude. That dude's like literally on the ground on that thing. That's crazy. I wouldn't be riding it like that, by the way.
Bro, that guy's checking the asphalt composition. Like he's not even riding. He's just like checking the quality of the road right there.
Yeah, honestly. But I'm intrigued by these, though. Like, there's something about them that's pretty cool. The sound, I'm a little bit iffy on, because it sounds like a 1-cylinder dirt bike or something, but it looks pretty sick. So I'd be curious to see it. Super lightweight, though, but I've never ridden one.
I always look at these. I'm never going to get one, but they're cool looking. And it's a Janus Halcyon 450, which is designed after the racing motorcycles of the 20s and the 30s. I always thought they were cool. They have like no horsepower. They go 90 miles per hour. Their top speed. They have like, I think it's like 30 horsepower or something. Not a lot. But they're cool looking to me. And I also like that they're hand built in America. I always thought that was a neat little addition to it. But the price shows that because they're like 14 grand and that makes them unaffordable. And I will not touch them unfortunately for the price. But beyond that, I would love to have one because they are very cool. And they come in so many colors. Like, look at that. They always look striking, Matthew. You've got to admit.
Yeah, it's striking. The only problem is it's only got 30 horsepower, and I've never even ridden a bike with that little power. Like, that's almost like scooter levels of power, getting close to it. I think the smallest bike I've ever ridden in my life was the first bike I ever rode, which was a Honda 500R, and it had like 45 horsepower or something. I wouldn't even know what 30 horsepower even felt like. Like, that must be feeling like it's slow as Christmas.
But it is pretty cool looking. I just kind of wish they offered it with some more power, like just a little bit more. But they all look really cool. I always look at them. I'm like, wow, those are really cool motorcycles. These are actually really the only ones I like, actually, as far as their style goes. They're pretty neat.
Yeah, they're interesting. If you wanted a bike that had kind of like a heritage look, like if you punch in BMW motorcycles, like their website, go there real quick and I'll show you which ones I was talking about. And of course, these are not going to be like as antique looking as a Janus, but they'll look somewhat similar. And also, go to the menu and go to all their models and jump off this heritage one right here.
Oh, this is taking forever.
It's a slow site. Go to Roadster.
Roadster.
Well, actually, click around a little bit on this. Like,
what? This one?
Oh, that's the one right there. The outer one right there. Like, that's the. Oh yeah, man, that's like the spec'd out one though. Like I think they started like 15. These are not cheap, by the way. This is like one of the biggest bikes BMW makes. This is the naked bike version of the S1000 Double R. These things are freaking like crazy fast. Like I think it's like 170 horsepower or something. They sound incredible. Like the sound that comes out of this thing is fantastic, and also it looks pretty sharp too. Like I'll be honest with you, this is a pretty sick looking bike. But sadly, this one is out of my price range right here. But yeah, 170 horsepower. Look at that, man. That's the type of horsepower that I'm looking for, honestly, if I could get it.
Butterflies in the tummy. That's what I like to say.
It's true, though. If you ever ride a bike that has that much horsepower, it really does. If you really try to ring it out, like if you actually try to test it, like full power, it really does like make your adrenaline start going.
So those heritage motorcycles, yes. Those R18 classics from Berlin to Warsaw on one tank. Always a legend. Like, it's always a legend. 18 grand. I would never touch those. Those are way more expensive. 1800 cc's though, that actually might have the power of a Panzer IV behind it. It's like that cc. That's actually kind of getting on up there. That actually does look like a cool motorcycle though.
It does. These are not. I don't think these sell well because anytime I've ever seen these in a dealership, it usually has been there for a long time. Like I will see it in there like every single time I've ever gone in. I'll be like, has that thing not sold yet? It's like I don't think anybody's buying these things for whatever reason. But yeah, the engines are like Harley displacements. They're huge. Oh, there's the other ones. There they are. I just didn't know to scroll down. The R129T, that one over there on the far left, is a pretty sharp one.
Bro,
and also
like
that one you're clicking on is pretty sharp too. Honestly, man, that looks actually pretty good. Damn, 22,000, man. You're getting the car prices.
That's a no from me, boss. That's a no from me.
What's the horsepower on it?
That's a good question, actually. Let's find out. That looks cool, man. This is like the racing motorcycles of like the 60s and the early 70s. Though that's a cool look.
Yeah, that is cool.
Let's see. Do they even say anywhere? No.
There's a specs button.
Oh, here we go.
109.
109 horsepower.
Oh, that's pretty respectable. Oh, it's a Boxer. That's why. Yeah, this is actually pretty respectable. Those have good torque. And it's also a weird engine design because I think the cylinders are mounted outward. So you can see the Boxer style is where the pistons are going out from each side of the bike instead of in a V-twin vertical form.
Yeah, you can see that. You can see that too. Let's see here. Let's check out that other one that you recommended. Although these are just too expensive, we would never be able to touch them. Look at that one. 17,000.
This one's getting a little bit better, but not much. BMWs are expensive. Like anything BMW is going to get pricey. But yeah, I like this one. I like this one a little bit better than the other one you just showed me a little bit. But yeah, another Boxer engine. Pretty neat. I've never ridden a Boxer engine, so I don't know how good it is, but I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, you know, it looks interesting. It looks interesting. You can start the engine. That's a pretty cool feature. Yeah,
honestly, that sounds very smooth actually for a two-cylinder.
They really feed into people like you, don't they, on this website? They're really trying to push those sales. Like, bro, you're probably gonna go back to this website after we get off the show and just listen to the audios that they have. Honestly, now I'm interested. What does this sound like? Because I've never heard this thing. Yeah, look, they actually have it for this.
Oh, they have that. Oh wow.
Oh, that actually sounds really good. That's a pretty good sound.
Honestly, that sounds heavenly. Actually, I'm not a huge cruiser person, but it actually sounds fantastic.
Dude, they really are pushing that whole Berlin to Warsaw on one tank thing. You know, like it sounds like a tank. How much is it? 18,000. Yeah, for that sound.
How's this cheaper than the other one you just looked at? This is a huge bike.
I honestly do not know. Like, maybe the other one's actually popular. That's maybe why. Like, but that's interesting. 18 grand for that sound. Man, that's an expensive sound.
Go back to that S1000 then and press the volume button on that thing. I want to hear that thing roaring.
So we would go to the Roadster, the S1000R, and we'd scroll down. There we are.
Oh, they got a sound on this one. Oh, man. Damn, that sounds good.
That does sound pretty good.
Holy moly, that sounds good.
That's pretty good, but that's an expensive sound right there, man. That is a $17,000 sound.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. For the cost, you're telling me 22,000 for that like old antique looking thing that they're making, or 17 for those? Like that's a no brainer. Like this right here, if you had the money, would be the way to go.
Well, I mean, obviously, but still, the old one. Like if the older looking heritage thing, the racing motorcycle was cheaper. Honestly, that would be my go-to because it looks cooler. But that one, this one that does also look cool, but it's just not my kind of cool, you know. Adventure, urban mobility.
Oh, you know those adventure ones. Like go back to that real quick.
You know, man. Now I know what it feels like to listen to me on trains. like now I know.
Go down to adventure.
Yeah,
there you go. Then click on let's see. I think it's the R1200 1250 GS Adventure. Click on that one. It's the one over there. Yeah, that one. These are pretty
Oh
cool,
my
like with the boxes on the
God.
back and stuff. Yeah, but these right here are like touring bikes. These are like pretty big ones right here, and they're made for comfort. I've never ridden one. I've sat on one, and it's pretty intriguing. A lot of people take these like to Africa and stuff, and they go like driving through the whole country with it, which is kind of brave, honestly. But it looks pretty sick. Like actually, it looks pretty nice. That's a pretty powerful engine too. It's got 140 horsepower. Oh wow, that sounds good. That sounds shockingly good, actually.
It's actually pretty nice. I wonder if we're going to get copyrighted for playing these sounds.
No, they can't copyright an exhaust sound.
You never know. Like, you never know. But beyond that, it was a good sounding engine. I'll give it that. I'll give it that.
Go real quick, since we're on the topic. I know we're running over time, but since we're enjoying this so much, go to Ducati's website real quick. I want to show 2 more bikes real quick.
All right.
Hopefully they had like a sound. Like I would love to hear these on a sound.
I don't know if they're going to be that uppity.
Oh, they've got a Lamborghini one. That's crazy.
Wow, that's very impressive right there. Very impressive indeed.
That is impressive. Look
so-
on the models real
So
quick.
what
Let's
would you
see.
like to-
Go to the Panigale, though, over there on the right. This is the one that they're really known for. Also, it's the V4R on the far right. Yeah, click on that. $45,000 motorcycle. You got to be crazy to buy this. But let's scroll down, man. Like let's see a picture of this thing. 240 horsepower, crazy. Look at that.
Oh my
Now,
God.
tell me that is not a sharp-looking bike right there. Now, obviously, 45,000. If you're buying this, I think you're racing and you got like a little bit of cash to blow or something like that. But that thing is like incredible looking. That is a sharp-looking bike. Probably like absolute hell to ride it because it's so far bent over. It's a full-on racing bike, but it looks fantastic though. Like that looks really good.
They do not allow for you to hear the sound on Ducati. They cannot bless you with the sound.
Wait a minute, I think they did right down there. Go back down. No, they don't actually. Never mind.
Nope. They don't. So it appears that this rabbit hole is coming to an end. Like it appears that this one is going to be rounding on out because we do not want to get into a full-length stream. So with that, we are going to be moving on to the final question of the night. And so who was the last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
All right, so that viewer, the lucky last question of the night, this one's going to go to John Doe Crypto, who said, I have to ask the chat and enforcers, do you all believe that between world powers, it's understood that hurting Russia is part of this process as an understood bonus feature due to the tariff law?
Yes, largely is kind of understood that would be a bonus, or really just hurting the Russians is a bonus just in doing anything that is at their disadvantage. So I'd say yes for the large part, if I'm understanding that correctly. But with that, we have reached the end of tonight's stream, and what a stream it has been. We have had 63,000 people here with us since the beginning of the stream, and a peak viewership of 9,000 people. We are entirely honored and appreciative of having all of y'all here, and we hope that y'all have enjoyed this stream greatly tonight. If y'all have, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you all on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, and also a massive shout out to everyone for raising $3,616 for Revive Soldiers of Ukraine. And with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And with that, folks, thank you all for another great Sunday Night Fundraiser stream with over $3,600 raised and well above the goal, at least 1,000 above the goal. Huge thanks to you all for making that possible and happen once again tonight. And of course, we will see you all on Tuesday night on the next Nightly War News stream. And if there is enough news to cover tomorrow, which is a Monday, so things should be popping off once again on Monday, we'll be making a short video midday tomorrow to cover that. But of course, thank you all once again. And of course, Slava Ukraine, Hear 'em Slava, get some rest, and good night.